We are live. Okay. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 6 of Insert Name Here. Um so today's topics are well, first off, let's start with the biggie, which is the lawsuit between Scarlett Johansson, actress who plays Black Widow, and Disney, the Mouse House, who long story short, just to abbreviate what has happened, why this lawsuit exists for anyone who doesn't know. Uh Black Widow actress is suing the Mouse House because they violated and breached her contract for the Black Widow movie. The Black Widow movie was supposed to. This contract was made before the COVID-19 pandemic, and it said that Scarlett Johansson was supposed to earn all of her revenue, all of her salary, from how well the movie does on the box office. Which, given this was made in 2019, before COVID-19 and all that, and Marvel movies are known to be billion-dollar hits in the box office, this was kind of a no-brainer, right? But after COVID-19, the film decided to breach the Disney decided to breach the contract they made with her and release it on their streaming service Disney Plus, which means that a lot of the money she would have made from the box office was cut in half. The Wall Street Journal even did a estimation saying that she probably lost around $500 million from Disney breaching their contract. And so she's suing them. And the newest turn is that they decided to file for arbitration. So pretty much what that means is now they're going to deal with it outside of court, away from prying eyes.
What's not that surprising, really.
Just trying to find the watch face. Have the articles there. Stream, pardon me. There we go. Here, so we have our Scarlett Johansson Black Widow lawsuit, game-changing but may be legal. They talk about how, like, essentially, they've been going back and forth. We're talking about essentially a big name actress versus a multi-billion-dollar corporation that's getting bailed out by the government and getting funds there, as well as making money from a bajillion different projects, regardless of whether they screw over their employees or not.
Yup.
And that's the thing. This was everything about this lawsuit, by the way, is seated in greed. Like, there's no, like, maybe there's some, like, oh yeah, they want to take Disney down a peg and show them that treat their actresses and actors right, but the bottom line is it's all about money.
Well, to be fair, I think we should note, though, that just because it's about money doesn't necessarily mean it's about greed.
That's true. Or we should elaborate. It doesn't mean it's a bad thing.
Yeah, because it's like if any organization
if good thing comes out of it,
individual writes a contract and says, this is what you will do, this is what I will do, we are both agreeing to these terms, we've both signed on the dotted line, and one or the other tries to go and renege on that deal and be like, haha, you did your part, but we're going to screw you out on our part, that's wrong. Doesn't matter who it is, what side they are, doesn't matter if they're bigger, small, powerful or not, it's not right. Don't do it.
No, it isn't right, and it's like, yeah, that's the thing. Is, like, I know a lot of people always, like, we've talked about the whole Activision Blizzard thing, which we'll probably do another episode on, like, next week or something. But we were talking about in one of those episodes how HR is for the company, but it shouldn't be. Like, that's the PR's job. Like, HR should be about protecting the employees from the company if when that problem arises, which happens a lot apparently in the entertainment industry. Well, not apparently, it does happen a lot. It has happened for the last 50 plus years. We're only hearing about a lot of it. In a lot of cases we've known for years, like how many movies and television shows have joked about the casting couch and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But back to the lawsuit here. pretty much Scarlett Johansson was screwed over by Disney. Whatever way you want to look at it, that is the reality. Was screwed over. Like, they breached her contract. They said that, okay, because in the contract it stated that the film would be exclusively in theaters, as a film normally would before COVID-19 pandemic. It was going to be exclusively in theaters, and obviously her salary was based on the box office numbers. So if it was in theaters for, say, a week, that means all the money that movie made, she would be making money as well. However, because it released in theaters and on the streaming service at the same time, she did not, and she doesn't make any of the money from the streaming service side of things. Hell, I'm kind of questioning whether anyone makes money aside from Disney. Like, do any of the employees that actually worked on the movie, set designers, costume designers, all these, cameramen, etc. Do all these guys make money from the streaming service side of things, or is it just Disney?
Probably,
like, is it a DVD style thing where it's like, DVD, you get money as though it was movie theater, or is it a new thing where only Disney makes money and they distribute it how they see fit?
Yeah, realistically, it's probably
we don't know, and not necessarily a good thing. In the box, like, it did well. Like, that's the thing is, Black Widow did do well as a movie in theaters. It did not do well as a Marvel movie. Like, compared to other Marvel movies, like, they usually make $1 or $2 billion in box office, whereas the opening week or something, it was like, what, 20 million? A small number compared to usual. Again, it was a good. The numbers were good for just a regular movie. But we're talking about like a Disney MCU film, so the contract was made prior to the COVID-19 stuff, and apparently, according to the lawsuit, Scarlett Johansson did try to amend the contract to include streaming services revenue, but they decided to not. Like, no, they're not changing the contract, and did the theatrical and streaming service release. Imagine, like, and that's the thing is, if you have the option to watch it at home, you're totally going to. Not really a question. Go to a movie theater where you have to pay $15 a ticket, and say you're going with a family of, I think there's a family of 3. Okay, so that's $45, not including concessions, versus watching it at home, pausing it whenever you need to go to the restroom, having food at home. Like, you have more control and it's more comfortable. People are going to clearly watch it at home, which means revenue in the theater. And the movie theater people hate it too. Like, the theater companies themselves hate streaming services. So, and I guess a way around that would be, having streaming services like license out to movie theaters. Like, this way, movie theaters can show streaming service movies. Like, imagine like a Netflix movie premiering in a theater for a week or something, and then going to Netflix or something like that.
I mean, that'd be interesting, but they never do it.
No, I'm just saying. I'm just trying to figure out, like, on the fly right now, how would theaters even survive? Because that's the thing, is this kind of stuff is killing theaters, which is unfortunate because a movie theater is a good experience. I say that though, but I also haven't been to a movie theater since 2017.
Tisk.
I seriously, I haven't seen a movie in theaters since the atrocious Spider-Man Homecoming in July of 2007. And I went to see that with, like, I went with my entire family. I went with my father, my brother. All 3 of us are huge comic book and Spider-Man fans. I went with my sister.
You mean huge nerds?
Yeah, we're all huge nerds. Nerd. I took my sister with me because I figured, look, she was telling me how she thought the actor was cute. So I'm like, yeah, you might enjoy this. I was so wrong. She even hated it. She's not a Spider-Man fan. Like, she's not a comic book. She doesn't like the stuff. The only comic book she's read is Archie comics. So, and that was when she was a kid. Like, that's not. We're talking like a few years ago. She's an adult now. It's like she hated it too. It's like we all went to see this movie. We all hated it and regretted buying tickets to go see it in theaters.
And now look at you.
I mean, I was walking out of the theater saying if if the sequels are done by the same guys, I'm not watching them. To date, I still have not watched the sequels of those movies. Man of my word.
And a word of your man.
What a man, what a man. What a... but yeah, Scarlett Johansson slams misogynistic Disney response as Mouse House tries to move Black Widow suit behind closed doors. So anyone who has seen a Marvel movie or reads comics knows the Black Widow moves fast and deadly, and that's exactly what Scarlett Johansson did this morning of... It was August 21st. So... after initially responding to this litigation with the misogynistic attack against Scarlett Johansson, Disney is now, predictably, trying to hide its misconduct in a confidential arbitration, said Oscar nominee's main lawyer John Berlinski today at the House of Mouse's House of Mouse. I always love that. Response to Johansson's scathing profits lawsuit went public. Why is Disney so afraid of litigating this case in public? Added the Kasowitz-Benson Torres LLP attorney, and what has become a Cuban Missile Crisis level of war of words. Because it knows that Marvel's promises to give Black Widow a typical theatrical release, like its other films, had everything to do with guaranteeing that Disney wouldn't cannibalize box office receipts in order to boost Disney Plus's subscriptions. Berlinski adds, as Disney insists Marvel's contract with Scarlett Johansson provides for arbitration exactly in the event of a dispute like this one that erupted on July 29th. Yet this is exactly what happened, and we look forward to presenting the overwhelming evidence that it proves it. Yeah, pretty much like, again, it's just Disney doesn't want this to be public because it's going to be bad PR, and the fact that they feel, obviously, it's a case of, they're wrong because they're not us type thing. We made them. Because they don't care. They don't care about screwing over. They have enough money and power to do whatever they want. I know I'm starting to sound like a conspiracy theorist, bad corporation bad, but I mean, look at the corporations we're talking about and how they act. They kind of are bad.
Yep.
Well, not kind of. They are bad.
Yep.
I mean, what was the... I don't have the... where was that image I had? Last time we talked about this lawsuit, where it's like, it was a picture of Mickey Mouse, and then it had a little text on the bottom saying what Disney, what is Disney doing for kids?
Oh yeah.
I don't remember. It was saying how it teaches kids to be, and then goes and listing all sorts of really nasty stuff, which I thought was hilarious. I mean, it's not really, but
no, but at the same time.
It's like, teaching your kids to discriminate and this and that. It's like, I mean, hell, you want to know a good example of what Disney has been one of the more affluent corporations in trying to rewrite and erase history.
Mm-hmm.
Namely with their movies. Here, Black Panther, the first black superhero movie. Captain Marvel was the first female superhero movie, and recently with Shang-Chi, we covered this last week, but they said or the actor specifically said that it's going to be the first Asian hero, aspirational Asian hero for kids to look up to, when all three are false. As far as I'm aware, and I could be wrong, someone please tell me otherwise, or tell me if I'm wrong, correct me in the comment section or in the chat, but if I'm, the first black superhero movie, wasn't it Meteor Man in the mid 90s? And then obviously in terms of Marvel,
when did Blade
I was gonna say, and then in terms of Marvel, you had Blade in 1998, Blade 2 in 2000, I think it was 2002, and then you had Blade Trinity in I think 03, I think. But yeah, you had the Blade trilogy, which came out before the MCU even existed. Obviously, you had, in terms of female superheroes, just Marvel, you had Elektra in 2005. DC, you had Catwoman in 2004. Also, black superheroes in terms of in DC, you had Steel in 1997, I think. Could be wrong in a year, but I think it was 1997. But again, you had Steel that existed. Shit movie, but it exists.
Or does it?
Some people know, but not for the reasons that Disney claims. Just it's so bad they want to erase it from memory. Yeah, and then obviously the real female superhero wise, that's not Disney or that's not Marvel or DC. You have Barbed Wire, which is a Dark Horse property. Dark Horse property from 1996. The movie from not the character, or somewhere. But yeah, so it's like none of these are firsts of anything. It's just that, and you know what? Even if they were, who fucking cares? It doesn't matter if you're first. What matters is if you're best. I know that sounds kind of conceited.
I would even say it doesn't matter if you're the best. It matters more if you do it well. You don't need to be the best, and if you don't hit that, you're nothing. But it's like just do stuff well.
No, but I mean, like, you shouldn't be striving to be the best. You shouldn't be striving to be the first. You should be striving to be the best. Type. You know what I mean?
Oh yes, I would definitely agree. I would definitely agree with.
Also, I know that sounds a little conceited, but like that's what I'm trying to get at. Like you shouldn't be trying like, oh, I'm going to be the first. This like, who cares? Whether you're first or last, it doesn't matter. How well did you do it?
Exactly, and we're really seeing that Bethesda. I'm sorry.
No, for anyone watching, the reason we started the stream late is we got sidetracked talking about video game nonsense before for like half an hour or so. You were saying Disney.
I mean Disney. Honestly, all the companies out there are seeing it. There's no attempt at least at a high level to approach the content that they're making, the worlds they're developing, or more so the worlds that they are now working in, because we're seeing so few original content being made these days.
I mean, after we talked about
but we're seeing no honest attempt to actually work with the lore, work with already established stuff, even just working next to with others, as we're seeing with the whole fucking lawsuit here. Disney can't even go and abide by their own fucking contracts. So.
No, they're breaking their own contracts literally just for a buck, and they screw over their. One of the honestly, would you agree with me? Would you agree with me in saying that Scarlett Johansson is probably their most popular, if not their biggest actress they have on their payroll at the moment, or had on their payroll?
Actress? I'd probably say yes.
Actress, not like actor of all time. Actress specifically.
Yeah. Like actress, I'd probably say yes. Actor, I'd have to say at least right now would be like Robert Downey Jr.
I was gonna say probably Robert Downey Jr. or something
honestly,
like that. I agree.
He pretty much.
He's definitely the biggest in terms of the payroll.
That was the first star, really, of the Avengers.
Right.
He pretty much carried that on his back.
Also the fact that I'd say he's the biggest because he literally had the biggest paycheck of all.
Oh yeah.
Consistently across films, which is. Whatever, take that as you will, based on the film and all that. Like, topic for another day, I guess. But yeah, I'd say, in my opinion at least, Scarlett Johansson is their biggest actress that they have, or I should probably say had at this point. And they're just like, no, we don't care how big you are. Like, how much money you make us, we're screwing you over.
Yep.
Like, and this is completely irrelevant to the movie itself. Like, whether the Scarlett Johansson's the Black Widow movie that came out, whether it's good or bad is irrelevant, because this case isn't about the movie and how, like, was it good, was it bad? It was the fact that even if it was horrible, like, let's be honest, even the horrible MCU movies have still made $1 bajillion in box office revenue because they're MCU movies. People will go see it regardless because of brand recognition. Elliot, like, take.
Yep.
I maybe Iron Man 3 is not the best example to use because Iron Man 3 was the first movie after the Avengers in 2012. Iron Man came out. It was the first movie of 2013, I believe, that Disney Marvel made. So it was literally like, okay, it's like when you have a really good good original, but then a really crappy sequel. But because it's a sequel to this really good movie, everyone's gonna flock to see it. and then only to find out that it's crap. So that was that kind of situation with that film. Iron Man 3 is a shit movie, but because it was the first movie after Avengers, it did really well. But honestly, Black Widow, it doesn't really matter at this point because look at every MCU movie, even the bad ones still do well. Financially speaking, like even the Thor movies that are absolutely like they're terrible, they still do financial. They're still financial successes because they're breaking in the money. And to the MCU, everything's about the universe and brand recognition stuff. Hell, even the Spider-Man movies. Like I didn't like Homecoming because it's not Spider-Man, Spider-Man in name only, but because it's connected to the MCU and had Robert Downey Jr. in it, and because it's a brand recognized character like Spider-Man, it made $1 bazillion. I don't know the specific numbers offhand. I know it was a lot. Yeah, so now we're having Disney essentially just screwing over Scarlett Johansson and how, okay, let's put the movie on Disney Plus instead of exclusively to theaters and then go to Disney Plus because COVID-19 pandemic. What was the original excuse they said? The original excuse was that, the disregard for the safety of the COVID-19, of the prolonged COVID-19 stuff. I'm trying to find what the original response they gave was. Such like they contradict themselves as corporations typically do in PR statements. And here, I'm trying to find it. Here, so pretty much Disney. The original response Disney gave to the lawsuit was how it was shamelessly and how they called Scarlett Johansson insensitive to the pandemic for publishing her and stuff like that. How talking about how she weaponized her success or something. Oh no, how Disney was Disney was weaponizing her success. No, sorry.
Against Disney, their own employee.
Yeah, Disney was weaponizing her success, so that was something to be. Let's say accused. Okay, here it is. Disney said the suit had no merit and that it is especially sad and distressing in its callous disregard for the horrific and prolonged global effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Like, that was their original response to the lawsuit. And yeah, also the button-up company also disclosed that Scarlett Johansson earned additional compensation on top of her $20 million salary from the movie. She only made $20 million.
Which, I mean, that's still a lot. That being aside,
yes, but
around breaking contracts, that's still not okay. It doesn't matter who it is.
I said 500 before.
Wrong is still wrong.
I need to correct myself. I said 500. I meant 50 million before. Wall Street Journal said that the decision to put the blockbuster on Disney Plus likely cost Johansson more than 50 million, not 500, but 50 million, which is again still a lot of money. Evidently enough to warrant a lawsuit. But the recent news is that they're filing for a private arbitration. This way they don't have to deal with the prying eye of the public, because litigating this in public is going to be a public disaster for them, which they don't want. I know recently with Shang-Chi, the new Shang-Chi movie that's coming out, they're doing it exclusively in theaters and then going to Disney.
Yeah, so they're already showing that although by and large nothing's really changed from the time when Black Widow came out, they're perfectly fine with doing that.
Yeah, but it's pretty much like, yeah, exactly. It's kind of like, oh, see, look, we're doing it. It's fine now. It's like Scarlett Johansson still had a lot of. Again, whether you agree with she should get the money or not, the point is they screwed her over by facing her. They breached her contract.
Yep.
at the other article because I have like a for anyone who wants to read any of these articles themselves, they're all in the description as you. But yeah, so Disney's trying to hide its misconduct by seeking arbitration, and it's just becoming ugly. It's like hissy fit, name calling. What the fuck is that promotional?
Yeah, just same shit, different day.
Yeah, Disney's pushing back following Scarlett Johansson's lawsuit against the company for alleged breach of contract, which, I mean, according to the contract, is not so alleged, but over the release of Black Widow, the company filed a motion with the Los Angeles Superior Court on Friday evening, August 21st, again, Friday of that week, to move the lawsuit to binding arbitration in New York, according to court documents by People. Arbitration is, which is the what the hell just happened? We were just reading the article and
Rip. Uh-oh.
does that again. I can add and we're prepared anyways. Where the hell? Oh, by People. Arbitration is a confidential process where disputing parties agree that one or several individuals can make a decision about the dispute after receiving evidence and hearing arguments, per the American Association. In response to the filing, Johansson's attorney John Berlinski said it in a statement, after initially responding to this litigation with a misogynistic attack against Scarlett Johansson, Disney is now predictably trying to hide the confidential arbitration. We already read that. Why is Disney so afraid of litigating this in public? Well, the answer to that is many. There's many answers. Disaster, cost of money. You pick and choose. There's multiple choice, because and he states because it knows Marvel's promises to give Black Widow a typical theatrical release. Other films had everything to do with guaranteeing that Disney wouldn't cannibalize box office receipts in order to boost Disney Plus subscriptions. Yet that is exactly what happened, and we look forward to presenting the overall prove it. And here's another thing that we didn't mention yet. When you release a movie, like say you have a movie that's only in theaters and then goes to Disney Plus, you're not going to have as big of a piracy problem as if it's also on Disney Plus at the same time. As far as I'm aware, and I could be wrong, again, if I'm wrong, please let me know in the comment section or in the chat, but Disney Plus is probably one of the most pirated streaming services out there. Especially since it's not super difficult. Anyone can pirate from Disney or from any streaming service. Whereas in theaters, you can still pirate things. I've seen some movies pirated. Hell, that's how I saw Iron Man 3. But it's not as easy to do as just a streaming service because it's all online. You can easily just pirate that, no problem, versus something like a movie theater. And we're gonna have a guy holding a camera or their phone. In the lawsuit obtained by People in July, that her Black Widow contract with Disney's Marvel Entertainment was for a guaranteed exclusive movie release, with the bulk of her salary depending on large part on the box office performance. Disney intentionally induced Marvel's breach of the contract without justification in order to prevent Ms. Johansson from realizing the full benefit of her bargain with Marvel. Lawsuit read: Disney's latest filings dispute that claim and questions Johansson's Periwinkle Entertainment Incorporated for deciding not to name Marvel as a lawsuit, without effort to evade this unavoidable result and and generate publicity through a public filing, Periwinkle excluded Marvel as a party to this lawsuit, substituting it instead its parent company Disney under contract interference theories, but long-standing principles do not permit such. Disney said in the filing. Honestly, at this point though, Disney and Marvel, they're the same thing. Now, it's not like 20 years ago where you had Disney and you had Marvel, the two were completely unrelated. Disney and Marvel, they're one and the same. Even regarding the comic books, like they have the same guys working on the comics and the movies now. Or the same, not identically the same, but you know what I mean? Like the guys that are like the same editors and stuff, as far as I'm aware. So at this point, Disney and Marvel are one and the same. The movie side of things and the comic book side of things, cartoon, TV show, whatever side, it's all done by the same people. Yeah, this lawsuit kind of got screwed over. And again, yes, you know, it's not like she's not making any money at all, but again, you breached a contract, signed a legal document that said you were going to do this, and then you decided to do that instead. Held accountable. That's what all this is about. I think. Accountable for this. And now they want to go to arbitration, which means they can deal with this privately. No one trusts Disney.
Nope.
The company also made a pointed remark that Black Widow's box office opening grossed more than $135 million, noting that it was more than that of many other Marvel Cinematic Universe films, including Thor: The Dark World, and Thor: The Dark Ant-Man, which, although a good film, did not, at least one I enjoyed, did not do well because it was Ant-Man. The Ant-Man, the Wasp, and Guardians of the Galaxy. Pretty much all of the last three, although I'd say more like the Ant-Man and Guardians of the Galaxy, both good films, but yeah, they didn't do as well as the Avengers or Iron Man or Captain America, but that doesn't mean they did horribly. Also, I can't wait to hear like other actors, you know, like start suing their companies that they work for, because again, people need to be held accountable. You know, it's all about, you need to take responsibility for your actions. Doing something wrong, you have to be held accountable for what you did wrong, or in some cases, what you didn't do that was wrong. Sometimes inaction, what is that stuttering my word. Yeah, this is like we already read all this. Again, we covered this last week, or not last week. Sorry, a few weeks ago. But pretty much, yeah, they're filing for arbitration. They're attacking the actress, apparently using misogynistic attacks against Scarlett Johansson. I don't know what these misogynistic attacks are. I haven't actually, unless they're considering the whole the whole weaponizing her successful career.
Who knows?
I don't know. I do know that Scarlett Johansson was blasted a few years ago for doing a SodaStream commercial, because SodaStream Israeli product and they employ a lot of workers.
Oh, Israel bad. Oh.
Exactly, that was the reason why. Like, it was because of Israel bad. And it's like everyone was talking about like, oh, Israel, you know, they oppress the Palestinians, blah blah blah. Even though SodaStream employs a crap ton of Palestinians in Israel. It's
like, sorry, when you actually check the facts, it doesn't pan out there.
Oh, here, I think they talked about it here. Yeah, so Disney refrain called the company's response to the actor lawsuit a gendered character attack. And I know Watchface. There's a little. I can't believe someone made an article about this, but the Bounding into Comics made an article just about uh Scarlett Johansson's fellow MCU actress, Elizabeth Olsen, who said like "you go girl" type. Essentially, like, hey, you're doing a good thing here. But it's like
Yeah.
that's not really like newsworthy. Like, if that was all we had about this lawsuit this week, I wouldn't be talking about this lawsuit at all. It's not news. It's like you can react to it, like okay, cool, but that's not news. Like this whole thing where it's like okay, they're filing for arbitration. That's news because that essentially means that Disney's trying to hide the entire lawsuit and deal with it privately, away from prying eyes, from public litigation, and from the. And apparently they're moving it to New York as well, so they're moving from one state to another. Like they're literally trying to take control of the entire thing, as opposed to actually dealing with this properly in a court of justice. Wait, that's I got nothing else on this topic. Want to move on? We can.
Sure.
Someone in the chat, so I don't see. Get no response. Excuse me. Alright, so should we talk about the Shang-Chi stuff since we mentioned it and we're still on Marvel?
Sure.
So for those who don't know, Shang-Chi, we covered this last week. Shang-Chi, actor stated during the premiere of the movie in Los Angeles that it was going to be like the first aspirational Asian hero, or whatever, for people to look up to, which again, bullshit. But hell, even within Marvel alone, it's a load of because we forgot to mention this last when we talked about it last week. But Ming-Na Wen, Ming-Na Wen's an actress who plays May. I'm blanking on her name, but Agent May in Marvel's Agents of Shield, and she's a kick-ass agent. Like she's essentially like their kung fu master. Like she's got the nickname the Cavalry in the show. Pretty much like she shows up. Everyone's always going into a situation armed with a gun, and they'll give her a gun, and she goes like, "If I need one, I'll take it. Like I'll take one." And it's like, and you see her just like completely kick-ass, and the choreography is great. So Ming-Na Wen deserves some credit. I figured we forgot to mention that last week, and I wanted to give the actress a shout out, I guess, because she's a good actress. She does really well in roles that I've seen her in, and that's worth mentioning. But yeah, so Shang-Chi reviews are in, critic reviews specifically are in, and well, some good and some bad. Like I'm honestly kind of surprised. So here's the thing, it depends on the site. So if you're looking at Rotten Tomato reviews, for Shang-Chi are very meh. Like that's the rating of the film. Like look at a lot of 4 out of 5, 3 out of 5s. Where's the like that's like how many reviews? Whatever, I'll figure it out. But like, a lot of 3 out of 5s mainly. This page specifically has a lot of 4 out of 5s, but if we go back a few days, 3 out of 5s, 4 out of 5, there'll be a few like 6 out of 10. But pretty much a lot of the reviews are saying the same thing, where it's like, okay, it's all right, it's decent, and then it just falls apart at the end. Giant CGI fest, stuff like that. So that's the Rotten Tomato side of things. Like a lot of 3 out of 5s, which by the way is 62 out of 100, 6.2 out of. That's we're going to be grading this paper 62 out of 100. That's not passing. Now, again, these are critic reviews, so it means nothing.
It means nothing.
But here's the thing: is so the Rotten Tomato reviews are actually a bit more, I want to say, realistic. Like some of these are genuine reviews, like not just chill bought out, a corporate buyout reviews. Whereas Metacritic, they're all corporate buyout reviews because they're all saying the same thing, and even the ones that are like trying to like that do find flaws and mention you, they're still praising it for how great it is and how it's Asian representation. Like they literally all mention Asian representation. Apparently, that's what needed to be a good film now, opposed to the film actually having good writing, quality writing, good characters, characters that make you care about them and care about the plot and have you become immersed in the world that you're watching. No, that doesn't matter. What matters is the representation, political messaging throughout the film.
Of course.
Like the fact that look, you have there's a total of 27 positive reviews, 4 mixed reviews, and 1 negative review. Singular.
So yeah, not buying it.
Again, that's why I want to find like the overall statistics on Rotten Tomatoes site to see like what are the statistics of negative, positive, and mixed. It definitely seems to be very like these are outdated, these images, but it's got a 92%. No, that's from how can it be from audience? I don't know, whatever. I don't use any of these sites aside from these streams that we show the sites off. So I don't use like why do I use them if we're gonna watch the film? Like I'm covering this stuff for you guys. I'm not gonna watch it.
Are you sure?
Yes. Interested? No. By the way, how do you pronounce? Because I'm not great with pronouncing Chinese and Japanese words, or Korean or Mandarin. Really, any Asian language. So, like, would this be Simu Lao or Simu Liu? Like, how do you pronounce? Like, I'm just genuinely curious. Like, how do you pronounce that name? Someone let me
I'm
know.
using Google. I have no idea.
Like exactly, like Simu Liu. Like how, I don't know how to pronounce it. What's funny is though is that if it were written in Hebrew, I'd probably be able to pronounce it. But that's the problem I have with English. Anyway, the actor that plays Shang-Chi in the film demonstrates he can carry a movie without a CGI galore climax. Shifting that route, Marvel once again proves to be their own worst enemy regarding the difference between disposable entertainment and crafting something legitimately great. 3 out of 5. Yeah, I actually like that. Like, this is coming from a critic, and that's actually a pretty honest review, no? It's definitely more honest than, oh, it's amazing, and it's got Asian representation, and woohoo! I mean, come on. Gotta give him credit where credit's due, right?
Never.
There's a lot of 3 out. This one doesn't even have a rating. Probably does if I click. Ooh, a free yacht trip. Okay.
Right?
That's why you don't click on random things.
Remember,
Wow,
kids,
that's actually a long review.
idiots.
No, it's a very long review. Probably a lot of. Honestly, I get it. Another thing I noticed from a lot of the reviews, based on Rotten Tomatoes, is a lot of the critics are praising the actor for the villain. Blanking Tony something. The actor's name. Long, I think. Tony Long. L-E. Probably mispronouncing that name too, but So yeah, like everyone's saying how like the villain's great. He's the one carrying the movie, which I mean, to be fair, that's kind of a modern like that's not unheard of. Watch The Dark Knight. Ledger's carrying that movie as the Joker. So like, good movies usually have villains that are really good in carrying those films as the villains aren't good themselves, but you know what I mean. Like villain portrayals are good. But in this case, I think his father, Tony Long is playing Wenwu. Yes, that's the character name there. So, by the way, for anyone who doesn't know, Legend of the Ten Rings, in Marvel Comics, the Ten Rings are the Mandarin's weapons. He has 10 rings that are like actual rings on his finger, all 10 of his, and each one has like a different power. Like one can disintegrate things, one can transmutate things, make things invisible. Like it pretty much
One can literally teleport chocolate to him no matter where he is or what he's doing.
one can make him fly. One can give him super strength or whatever. Like you have all sorts of different, like essentially superpowers associated with each ring. And but that's the thing is they're rings, and they're also each one has a unique design. Like they have a similar design language across them all, but each one has a specific like insignia or detail or whatever on them, making them unique and different, so we can know which one is the X ring versus the Y ring.
Because they're alien tech, they might not actually look like rings.
And that's the thing; they are alien tech. They're alien generators. Although, to be fair, what the rings are has been retconned like 5 times over in the comics. But if we're going from what I call the Marvel canon, which is pretty much anything up to like from the original 1960s up to 1995, right when the bankruptcy started and Marvel and the writing went to shit. That's when I considered the canon to be ended and Marvel was dying, and then 2000 Marvel died and everything. Because it's all different. Like you look at the characters and they're all completely different in their
details
characteristics, but. Like originally, yeah, it was just they were alien generators. They were on a Fing Fang Foom's ship, but now they're like where's that goddamn poster? Because there's a poster here. You have, I assume that's supposed to be the villain. By the way, for anyone who doesn't know, Shang-Chi father in the comics. So Shang-Chi is Marvel's Bruce Lee. Literally, like Marvel, after the success of Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon in 1973, here Marvel made Shang-Chi, Legend of Kung Fu, or Master of Kung Fu, and he was essentially Marvel's answer to Bruce Lee and trying to market on that popularity, Kung Fu trend of the 70s. And not to say he was bad, he had some really good comics from it. I have a good Iron Man Shang-Chi crossover where they fight Shang-Chi's father, Fu Manchu, who leads like an army of evil Kung Fu masters. They have to fight their way to beat him. A lot of good action. Really good artwork. And it was all done black. But yeah, so here he's not Fu Manchu because that would be insensitive. No one. Why it would be, but who cares? And the 10 rings, like Cam, you see on the stream right now?
You
see on the stream right now the image I have?
Nope.
Right, well, anyone watching those are the 10 rings, well, at least 4 of the 10 rings in the film. They're like rings on his arm, like on his forearm, not actual rings. They're not rings that you wear on your finger. They're the rings that he's wearing on his forearm, like giant bracelets.
Or bracers.
Or bracers. Yeah, except not even, because they're still like, it's weird. Like, let's look at the image. Put it in the group chat so you can. It.
Yes. Oh yeah.
It's like those are the rings,
Yeah,
and what's
I mean, yes, they're rings, but they're more
exactly
equivalent to a forearm bracer or something along
not
those
not even
lines.
a bracer, because a bracer would be like an armor plate on your forearm. This is just a bracelet. It's a glorified bracelet.
Pretty much.
And what's funny is like some of the promotional images I've seen for this film when reading articles, like the promotional images as you see on screen right now all over the place. One of them literally makes them look like the fucking Sonic the rings in Sonic the Hedgehog. You
Oh,
know,
God.
where you're gonna go fast and catch all those rings. Like it looks comically stupid. Now I'm all for having a little cheese and silliness in a film, but like if you're trying to portray something to be like this powerful weapon, don't make it look super silly unless that's the tone of the film. Like Men in Black
Yeah,
is a silly film, so they have the noisy cricket. It's supposed, that entire the gun itself is part of a running joke in the film.
because also too, like in the screenshot, at least those look decent. Like they look a bit gaudy, maybe, but
Yeah, where's I don't know. You know what? It's interesting. For the first time, I saw a trailer for this movie. Oh, here's another image. Um, for the first time, I saw a trailer for this in when I was watching some Star Trek on Hulu. One of the commercials was for Shang-Chi, and it was like, oh, so it really just looks like more of the same, like just more Marvel nonsense.
yeah, which again, not surprising.
By the way, I just put the image.
Okay, yeah.
Like, doesn't it
But yeah,
look a
like
little
that,
silly?
like just the fact that they all have the same design, it's just kind of like,
Exactly. Like
really, it's lazy. Honestly, it's
oh
lazy.
yeah, totally lazy. Um, I'm going to actually find from the '90s. The '90s, I think, this is the best Mandarin design. There's actually a really good story where Iron Man attacked the Mandarin's ring, where he literally grabs the Mandarin's hands right, with his hands, and fully powered repulsor blasts his hands off.
Ooh, that's gonna hurt.
And the entire, like in the rings, like the energy overload essentially causes like a nuclear blast. And like you see Iron Man like kind of getting up from the aftermath. His suit completely silver, like white, because the paint
The
is
paint
just
all got
complete.
scratched off.
Ablative armor and paint is gone.
Honestly, surprising he would have even survived past that.
Yeah, and that's
But
the thing is like the Mandarin is like you see him eventually wake up in like in some hut with bandages over his wrists and no hands.
oof,
So it's like they both survive,
those were his
but
favorite hands.
only hands. Yeah, that was really cool. That was a '90s comic. I want stories where Iron Man fights the Mandarin, but again, they're never gonna do that because well, they already killed him off. Whatever Endgame, and then the fact that they can't have a Chinese villain fighting an American hero. That wouldn't fly to their ears. I found an image, but it's really. So here's what the rings look like in the comics. Like they're not super creative, but each one's different. You can
Yeah,
really tell which
it
one
doesn't
does
literally look
what.
like it's honestly with those ones in the screenshots, they literally it's literally just the same ring, copy paste,
Yeah,
shrink
and
size,
a
copy
slightly
paste, shrink.
larger depending on where the positioning on the forearm.
Yeah, it's like you can't tell which is which. You can't tell any kind of different design element. There's literally just no difference.
Yeah, and that's what I liked about it because again, these are supposed to be like alien generators. So yeah, they look simple, but like inside is like maybe some quantum physics. Again, it's the aliens that use these as generators are giant fucking dragons. So it's not supposed to you know makes it's not supposed to be human comprehensive. It's supposed to be alien. And that's the thing, like this ring, the wing with the right, the ring with the white tubes, the capsules is ice blast ring rays. The ring finger one, on his left hand, sorry, is the meadow intensifier. You got the electro blast, flame blast, white light, matter rearranger, impact beam, and the matter rearranger is like one of the powerful ones. It have the vortex beam, the disintegration beam, layer, black light. It's like all these rings, each does a different thing, and each one has a unique design, so you know which one is which. Like it makes sense. Okay, the black light one has like these blue dots. The white light one has matching dots that are white. Matter rearranger just has a very simple pink dot on it. That's it, or pink gem on it. That's it. It's something that looks like a gem. Who knows what it actually is? Black beam is essentially like a general here shoot laser and everything blows up type. Got all sorts of designs here, and that again they're not the most creative. They're very simple designs, but that doesn't mean it's bad. Like obviously, if you're gonna make this into a film, you might want to go a bit more extravagant with the jewelry, but hell, maybe even have like an actual that's the thing that you can do with a movie is you can have an actual jeweler make these rings for the movie. Like that would be really cool, right? Because first off, you're giving like
really cool.
Because first off, a jeweler would know. But also, like you can have each one be good. Just from an artist perspective, artist myself, I'd love like, okay, you're tasked to make 10 rings. Each one has to look different. That sounds like a fun challenge.
Well, then also too, by the way, they're alien in origin, but.
Right.
But yeah, there could be all kind. They're alien in origin, but they're self-disguising to look like they would exist in our world with a somewhat oriental theme.
Right.
Like you'd probably have a lot of creators who would jump at a chance like that. Like, hey, that sounds really interesting. Let's try this.
Right, like maybe something like, okay, how would you redesign all these rings to fit in like a live action film? Well, the ice blast ring can be maybe something like, like it. First off, it's all white, right? Like maybe the rings themselves each have a different colored band, or maybe that's their match because they need something that unifies them in design aesthetic. But they each have to be different in the design themselves. So maybe they each have a gold band, but the white one has, or the ice blast one has white elements all over it, and has like a white gem that's emanating frost or something, right?
Well, I mean, you could be like, hey, they're gonna be. Let's even say, okay, they're gonna be rings on like the arm, so like a large bracelet kind of thing, of some kind. Sure, and then your design philosophy is they're all going to have like a gold U shape, and then everything else. So like the bottom of them and the sides are all going to be gold, and then the inset, the middle of these rings, at that point, go crazy. So it's like, hey, you could have different textures, different colors, different shapes studding the middle of it, or other things. You could have additional, let's say like one of them has additional bands that circle the bracelet itself. So like a little ring that could, if it wasn't attached, like it could spin around the main ring. So, something like that. Settle on there are other shapes or additions to it. Boom, there you go. You still have that similar shape to show, hey, these are related items to each other, but they're still going to look different. But as it is, yeah, It's literally just a copy paste job. I wouldn't be surprised if they literally had him wearing a he just has like a little sweatband kind of thing that's colored green on his arms, and then while they're doing all the scenes and stuff, and then they just go and they just do a copy paste for all of the I wouldn't be surprised if they don't actually even exist.
Yeah, and also, by the way, this character on the screen right now, this is the Mandarin. In the Mandarin is now other in the EU versus Fu Manchu. Okay,
Okay.
yeah, fine, I guess. I personally don't like it because like I don't know, like it just I just don't like it because you're taking an Iron Man villain, making him the main villain of someone else. Because again, the Fu Manchu in the comics is Shang-Chi's main villain. His father's his main. Whereas now we're having the Mandarin be his Iron Man. So they're not going to do. I mean, they are doing another Iron Man, according to rumors, but it's not going to star Robert Downey. Black
Oh
teenage
boy.
girl Iron Man. Victor Wolfong's in the chat saying, "You must go full fabulous or nothing." And we're talking about jewelry. Agree. Uh, Victor also says, "Sorry about Mixmaster. Ever watch Iron Man Adventures? Is that like 2000? What was this? 2008 or something? The CGI animated series from the late 2000s. Armored Adventures. I've watched some of it, but I can't say I've watched all of it. But I did like how they had this. The Mandarin was essentially like this Chinese armored behemoth. Like, it was a really cool look. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that was it was unusually good. Yeah. Well, again, it was before one, like right when Disney bought them, so before Disney really started getting all. Although to be fair, look, Marvel is a very I want to say it's hit or miss when it comes to their animation, but it's mostly miss with an occasional hit here or there. But when was the last time we had a good animated
When was the last time we had a good
from Marvel specifically? Say maybe 2000 Wolverine the X Men cartoon. I enjoyed that. It was definitely a better telling of Days of Future. Well, Days of Future Past the movie.
details?
Yeah, so we went way off topic. We are just back with the Mandarin ring bling design. The point is, yeah. So the ratings are in. The movie critics ratings are in. They're either saying it's the best thing since sliced bread, or it's okay, depending on what site you're going on. Like, look at you go to Metacritic, they're all 80, above 80 lives, but like, all pretty much 18 above. Here, it was long overdue. Uh, blah blah blah. Talking about how great it is. they don't even say any specifics at all. Pretty much like, look, I'm going to read this review. Even if it's long overdue, or maybe precisely because it was, Black Widow still felt like the remnant of a timeline before heroes had reached total market saturation. Shang-Chi, by comparison, feels like the new beginning that its predecessor was meant to be, as much as anything, because it truly ventures into a direction, building distantly a world that has now become common moviegoer knowledge, but adding stylistic flourishes and an unhurried pace from Cretan. The director's name. Cretin. Whatever. That suggests its content to be its own story instead of a cog in a larger machine. I have a hard time believing that, considering how every Marvel movie in the last 6 years has been a cog in a greater machine. And then he actually goes into the. So I was just praising the film for what seems to be a mediocre film, but then again, critics. Commonplace for critics. Nothing surprising. What? It's a mediocre film? Let's say it's the best thing ever.
So I love
paid.
Too,
because we're paid to say so.
We call them critics, but they no longer are.
Right.
It's very clearly.
No, we're more critical than they are.
Yeah, it's like it all just depends on whether the parent organization, because the critics have become businesses, and businesses depend on money, and so they're like, well, hey, we're going to just say whatever the fuck brings the money in. And when Disney comes around and goes, hey guys, I heard from an inside source that this movie is going to be wonderful. Oh, by the way, here's 20,000. And it's just like, okay.
I mean, look, I want to find that freak. They have the first art, and then came the first art critic.
The wheel, that'll never catch on.
Even in most primitive man, the need to create was part of his nature. This need, this talent, clearly separated early man from animals who would never know this gift. And here, in a cave somewhere in the North American continent, about 2 million years ago, the first artist was born. And of course, with the birth of the artist came the inevitable afterbirth. The critic.
Just starts pissing on the painting.
You don't do that?
Snag Optimum.
That's what critics used to be. They used to critique. Although, honestly, what an art critic should be is critiquing something so that, like, in a way where you're telling them what's wrong and how they should improve, or something that you'd at least like to see as opposed to what they saw. Because you want the quality to improve. You want the art form to improve on itself. So,
yeah,
you can't say, oh, it's bad.
That, hey,
why is it
by
bad?
The way, you had this in here when that kind of clashes with these other elements you included, and then that with these other things here, it's just you need to choose one or the other, not all three at once. Shit like that.
Actually, you can't just say, oh, it's bad. You have to say why it's bad. The whole point of critics and critiquing something is to be constructive, not just to take it like If you don't like it, yeah, you can. You know,
So if you don't
the
like
whole
it,
point
it's
again. The whole
perfectly
point is
fine,
to
but
improve, not just bash it over the bash it over the head with a coffee table. You gotta bash him over the head with the coffee table, and then tell him why you're doing it.
you suck. Wham, wham, wham. Do or do not. There is no try.
Of Iron Man. Sorry. I'm trying to find the specific panel. Yes, I think I found the issue. I have like trying to go image by image. Yeah, so pretty much, yeah, the reviews are in, and as expected, the critic reviews are mostly praising the film because, well, it's a Marvel film, and you know we're critics, so naturally it's going to be all good things.
So because Marvel is paying us.
If they weren't, it's probably an agenda. Kind of like, who cares, right? No one believes critic reviews. Everyone only cares about user reviews, as they should, because the user reviews are from actual people as opposed to paid shills, as they call them. What?
Has that shills?
Yeah, I said paid shills, yeah.
Which is unfortunate.
Indeed, because again, the whole point of their job is to critique the art form in efforts to improve it, not to praise. Like, because again, when you're praising at best mediocrity.
Yeah.
Well, which is then encouraging them to do it again.
For example, hey, look at the art style. Hey, we've got 10 rings, and there was no attempt, even though, again, according to pre-established lore, even if you're deciding to rewrite this stuff, before it was each ring has its own separate power, its own separate look. The idea was that these are individual items that individually are very powerful, and when combined are ridiculously powerful. Like, that's the whole point of it. That being said, though, I will note.
And this dude literally had the power, like the rings. 10 rings.
They're almost equivalent to the freaking Infinity Stones.
I mean, they couldn't. I mean, they couldn't alter universe on a universal scale, but they could. You know, he can alter like half a world, if not the entire world.
Well, that's the way I do find it funny. I was gonna say is it's like with again the pre-established lore with these items. You have this concept that these are very powerful artifacts, and you can do all this kind of crazy stuff with it, and the guy who owns it isn't going, and he's got a criminal empire. And of course, there's always some criminal empire.
Well, I like the idea. It's feeding his ego. He wants to, the Mandarin wants to rule the world, and that he's going to use these rings to accomplish it. He doesn't care about anything else.
But what I don't get though is that he's in the shadows. Because it's like, sure, you've got this criminal empire, but it's like, who cares about being in the shadows if anyone tries to attack you? You can, you could literally just sit there and laugh as they shoot their bullets at you and they all hit a force field, and then you go and you rip them all to pieces with the power of your rings. Why would it matter that someone may or may not like you when you're all powerful, right? That's what I don't get with that.
Well, again, if you're writing, you want to write this character to be somewhat realistic. Where okay, they have an ego and they have a goal, right? And the goal is, I just want to rule the world. They're going to use rings to accomplish that goal, and their ego thinks that they can actually do it. And maybe if they care about something after they complete that goal, yeah, but their goal is just to focus on the thing like that. That's fine. Like that's. No, even if he's trying, like, I'm going to conquer, this isn't like a Megatron thing where I'm going to conquer the universe and. You can barely hold Cybertron. Victor Wolfgang says the Planet Hulk movie is better than the comic structurally. I actually agree with that. because I could not finish the comic book. The movie was actually it's a case of honestly it's a similar case of Civil War, although not the live action movie, but like Civil War compared to the Civil War comic book 2005 to you can compare that to the Injustice video game, right? 2000 and I want to say what 2008, 7. The Injustice Gods Among Us video game, because that was like DC's version of Civil War. Like you compared it to, Civil War was just super dragged out, heroes killing each other, over like an argument essentially. No,
I mean it was quite literally a civil war, not
No.
just a kerfluffle like it was.
Gods
in the
Among
movies.
Us did not come out in 2014. Justice Gods Among Us did not come out. 2013. Knew it was not 2013. I'm not too surprised it's that late, but anyway, yeah, it was. Whereas if you compare the entirety of Civil War comic book compared to DC's Injustice, the video game, the first one, like look how much better Injustice is. It's a cleaner story. It's focused on a singular plot, singular purpose. It's supposed to like all these stories with these different characters killing each other, magic and this and that, like so convoluted and so like there's so much going on. It just becomes bloated and blah at the end. Like, who cares? Like it's just nonsense. It's a spectacle at best. Whereas Injustice actually had a good story, good characters. There was a singular focus of the plot. It was clean, precise, and it worked. And the Hulk, I think the animated Hulk movie, it was the same thing. Compare that to the comic book version. Same exact deal with a better example, actually a better comparison would be the Red Hood. Batman Under the Red Hood, the comic book versus the animated film. I prefer the animated film. Cleaner, it's more precise, it's cleaner written, better written. The story makes more sense. It's less convoluted. It doesn't involve Superboy Prime punching reality in order to bring Jason Todd to life and like by accident or whatever. It's like it's just okay. He's Ra's al Ghul accidentally orchestrated his death, tries to make amends, brings him back to life. It goes horribly wrong. So it's whatever. Victor asks us our thoughts on What If, Marvel's What If series. Assume the series, because the comic books are great. Well, some of them. Not every Marvel What If comic book is. Although there are some really good ones, like What If the symbiote took over Spider-Man? What if Kraven the Hunter killed Spider-Man? What if Spider-Man joined the Fantastic Four? Spider-Man becomes a member of the Fantastic Five. 5 of them. What if Spider-Man kept the 6 arms? So, like, yeah, that's like the what if stuff. Cam, have you watched Marvel's What If series? Because I haven't.
I have not.
I haven't either. I've not watched. Honestly, I haven't watched any Marvel anything. Well, at least anything new in a few years. Oh, going on 4 years now. One was 2016. No, sorry, 2017. Victor says it's very fun, consistent in its inconsistency. What do you mean? The Marvel What If series is consistent. Is that necessarily a good thing? It reminds me of like imagine inconsistent. Constructive smashing. Yes, constructive smashing. Victor Wolfgang says, I think they changed it so they don't get compared to the Infinity Stone. That's another thing. The comic books, they call them the Infinity Gem.
Yeah.
And I always found it silly when they started calling them the Stones. Because it just sounds silly. Like the gems
Well, that's
sounds
the
cooler
point
in
was
my
they were
opinion.
they were gemstones in that how they look,
Yeah, they were literally like
how
oval. They were
they
oval in
physically
shape and
appear.
everything. Versus in the movies, they look like just colorful rocks.
Yeah.
But like it just like when he's like, okay, so what it's the mind gem, like it's in the comics, it's the mind gem, the soul gem, you know, reality gem, time gem, space gem. And when you say those things like soul stone, like SS, really? I not in that way. I mean like like soul stone.
Whee!
Yeah, like soul. Like it just doesn't like it sounds silly. Like you're saying. I mean, it's like the same problems like Silas Stone, Victor Stone's father, Cyborg's father. It's like yeah, it's like I get it. Comic books are known for their whatever the term, you know, where they have a Bruce Banner, right? Peter Parker, you know, but like Soul Stone just I always just refer to them. Like I don't care what the movies call them.
The
I
soul
will
gem.
always call them the gems, Infinity Gems.
But wait, if we call it the soul gem, Bethesda's coming after us. Oh no!
At least they're not calling it. What the hell is that? Where that one?
Nurmru?
Yes.
Surprised I remember that. Isn't it always murder time?
Victor's asking us what are our thoughts on the No Way Home trailer. I have not watched the No Way Home trailer. I have not watched any. As I said, I'm not watching. If it's done by the same guys, and this new movie is done by the same guys that did Homecoming and Far From Home, so I'm not gonna watch it. Have you watched the No Home trailer? No Way Home, whatever. No Home Alone, no,
No.
Homo.
Honestly, I don't have cable at all, so honestly, I've seen zero commercials for anything in the past
right.
year.
The only time I got rid of cable a year ago now, so the only time I see commercials are when I Hulu. So pretty much anytime I'm watching MASH or The Odd Couple, which is quite often, but still, you know, it's like the commercials they show on Hulu are not like trailer commercials. Again, like for the first time in months, I finally saw the Shang-Chi commercial on Hulu, and it was because like the movie's coming out. It wasn't like before that I've never seen a Shang-Chi trailer Hulu, despite it being owned by Disney. But I have seen a shit ton of on Hulu in terms of commercials because every commercial on Hulu is the same fucking thing. Is vaccine commercials that make no sense. Like they literally contradict themselves in the great. Anyway, I haven't been watching trailers for things. The only trailers I've seen recently the last few years are video game trailers, and not even a lot of those, to be honest. I haven't really watched. Well, Victor says that each episode is its own universe and story. Yeah, well, that's what if is. What if was what if something else? It was like, let's take a look at an alternate dimension where the character did this instead of what they did in the mainstream universe. And it usually goes very. A lot of the original what if stories are very, very statistically bad. Like some of the good ones, like the Fantastic Five story where what if Spider-Man joins the Fantastic Four, or what if Spider-Man keeps the arms. Like they're not exactly happy stories, but at least those two end on a happy note. Most of the time, they're just really, really depressing. Like you see the hero just completely get killed.
Oh, and what I don't get too, and it's like sure, we're as we explore more and more stories and ideas of expanding the lore of these characters, we're going to start seeing more and more diverse storylines and that kind of stuff. But it seems to me across all media, we said this before, but it seems to me across all media nowadays that hope, optimism, those don't belong anymore. Everything has to be all about, at best, a Pyrrhic victory, to where sure it's like sure you've won, but at what cost, kind of thing. And like I said, it just seems like it's that way across the board. And it's like whatever, like superhero, the idea was supposed to be, here is a ideal to strive for, to hope for, to build a world where, essentially, because it's like, we know the world we live in. Any person out there, even your most optimistic optimists, they're going to know the world isn't perfect. It's not all puppies and rainbows. Obviously, there's issues with it. But we should strive to make a world, to get from where we are now to a world where, at the very least, we can lessen the bad in it. That was the whole idea of it. And with superheroes, it was putting personification to these ideas. And yet nowadays, it seems like that's all been turned around to where we're seeing more and more stuff where it's like,
nowadays,
the superhero dies.
Yeah, nowadays it's all about deconstructing the hero, because that's either what's popular, or it serves the political agenda, or because
it's just the idea.
Insert your reason. It's like, I don't want to, that's the thing, I don't want to watch all these things where I watch my favorite character die. Why do I want to watch my favorite character die?
Or for example,
unless it's like and that's the thing, that's why I liked What If, because yes, some of the endings aren't great, but it's like a what if. It's not the main continuity, it's just a one-off story in its own separate continuity where they say okay, what if they did this other thing? Again, not all of them are great, but that's where you can do What If kind of spawns the original, a lot of the alternate continuities that Marvel eventually started making titles of, like Spider-Man Noir and stuff, were based on What If type titles. And that's the thing, if you want to do a alternate version of a character and do a storytelling where Batman die, an alternate reality, Batman's a little older now and he dies as a hero, whatever, and it inspires people and stuff that's a good story. You can tell a good story through that. That's fine, as long as main Batman is still alive and being a hero, an actual hero, not being deconstructed because it's a white male that has a long.
But also too, one thing that too is J. Jonah Jameson. One of the big things of him in the Spider-Man universe is that he's always ripping into Spider-Man, and generally the reasoning behind it was that if I remember, it was that his wife was killed by a person in a mask, and so Jonah Jameson goes and he distrusts anyone who wears a mask, irregardless of what they're doing. And it's okay, that's understandable to have a very emotional reaction to that because of what happened. And
he's got 3 lines in the comics, but
yeah, but
not in a womanizing way. Just they usually end up getting the first, when you meet him, he's already divorced and all that. His wife was killed because of Man in the Mask, and he gets married and he becomes a constant victim when Scorpion shows up a lot.
Yeah,
even kidnaps her at one point to rent.
Yeah, but unfortunately, so with that said, damn it, let me get my thoughts together here. Stop interrupting me. Fuck.
You were talking about how hero
So the idea behind Jason James is he doesn't like anyone wearing a mask. Oftentimes, though, we see character growth of him in timelines that are explored long enough where he'll go and discover, hey, Peter Parker, one of your best photographers, is Spider-Man. And just this cognitive dissonance he has of, wait, what the fucking shit? And then sometimes you even say, I know in at least one episode, Green Goblin was going I know, who's taking these pictures of Spider-Man. And at this point, not only does J. Jonah Jameson, obviously it's Parker taking these pictures, but he knows Parker is Spider-Man, and he covers for him. He could just be oh yeah, it's this guy. But he goes
Well,
and
that's
covers
the thing
for
is
Peter Parker and Spider-Man, lying to him. He goes, the guy just phones it in. I don't know
he mails
who
in
it
the
is.
pictures. I never see him. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, and the character growth there. But the idea is always that James Jonah Jameson is going so far, too far in his hatred of heroes. That's meant to show, again, this idea of why are you actually hating these heroes? What is the reasoning behind your hatred of it? And it's not meant to be something too idealized, like it seems that a lot of the writers nowadays are going for. They seem to be very James Jonah Jameson-esque in that, heroes are all bad. They all have to have these, and it's like, it's not to say that heroes shouldn't be realistic. They shouldn't have their flaws, because of course they should. They're meant to be human still, like us, at least to a degree. We're meant to empathize with them. They're going to have their troubles. They're going to have their fuck ups. I mean, Peter Parker's whole thing was that he fucked up and his uncle died, and that it was partially his fault. Like that's huge, and a huge reason of why he becomes Spider-Man, because he's like, I'm going to live this ideal that my uncle had for me. That's one of the central pillars of the character. But nowadays, it's just all about how heroes are bad, or how everything is bad, and etc. Okay, rant over.
No, I agree with it. Like, that's the thing. It's like, it's all about, deconstruct the hero. By the way, Victor, I just saw your apology. Yeah, that's what I liked about Jameson. He comes off as a dick, but he actually is a good person. He just, whatever reason it is, he just doesn't want to show it, or like he wants to have the tough guy facade, or whatever. Like, depending on continuities, like in the comics, he actually, again, it was a similar thing, but he actually did have a respect for Spider-Man. There was even a little bit of a jealousy, because he was doing good. It's like, and that's the thing. Like, Jameson, he hates everyone in mask. By the way, Victor asks, so he should lambast every mask-wearing hero, also meaning Luke Cage should be popular. He actually hires, so immediately after Gwen Stacy dies at the hands of the Green Goblin, and Spider-Man then tries to kill the Green Goblin, only for the Green Goblin to kill himself in an attempt to kill Spidey. They blame, like, right afterwards, the next issue opens with essentially like the funeral for Norman Osborn, and Norman Osborn was a friend of J. Jonah Jameson. They went to the same clubs, and like the Old Men Club or whatever together. So he hires Luke Cage to kill Spider-Man, or to at very least take him in. Yeah, he likes Luke Cage because, like, he's being upfront and honest. Like, he's being a hero, but he's working for money. A hero for hire. He actually does lambast other heroes that wear masks. The only one he doesn't is Captain America, because he has, the utmost respect for Captain America, as pretty much every other living human being does.
Well, also too, isn't Captain America's identity known? Like, everyone knows Captain America is Steve Rogers, right?
Yes. Well, originally no, but
okay.
Originally, like during World War II, no.
Flip-flopped, but
during World War II, it wasn't.
Oh yeah. During World War II, no, but in the modern day continuity,
yes, when he's
everyone knows, even though he's wearing
the
the costume, everyone knows that's Steve Rogers.
So it's like, but even if it wasn't, he still respects him. It's like, it's Captain America, the guy that fought in World War II, J. Jonah Jameson's son probably idolized, because in the comics, J. Jonah Jameson's son, John Jameson, was a Air Force. I think he was a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. He was later then in the NASA. He was an astronaut. That's Spider-Man's first heroic act, really, was saving John Jameson when his command capsule's guidance system malfunctioned. Spider-Man saves his life. So J. Jonah Jameson always respects Spider-Man, but because of that personal grievance and just, I guess, personal trauma, that Jameson has with masked men, he will always be doing it almost as a way to like. You can almost look at it as a way to keep Spider-Man honest, which is a weird way to look at it. But yeah, like so, like again, he respects Spider-Man because he did save his son's life, but he's like, oh, he saves my son's life for the publicity or whatever. He's a showboat, he runs around New York City like his own personal playground, blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, he still respects him. Even in the movie, like that's what I liked in the movie, where it's like, Spider-Man, where were you? Like, we need you. Right, when he's looking at the costume, and like, I chased you off or whatever, and then all of a sudden he turns around, costume's gone, a little note saying thanks for keeping it safe or something. Like, I want that masked menace strung up by his own web. But yeah, it's like, so Jameson does hate other masked heroes. It's not just Spidey. The only masked hero he doesn't hate is Captain America. He Iron Man he doesn't hate, but he doesn't exactly like. He's not like he doesn't hate as in he's not going to write editorials about him, but it's not exactly like he trusts him either. It's just that because Iron Man in the comics is Tony Stark's bodyguard, like that's Iron Man in the comics. No one knows who Iron Man actually is. People in the
at least until you get midway into the stories, and then everyone figures it out.
More like it wasn't until like mid-90s after they killed original Tony Stark that pretty much the entirety of the world knows. But really, the only people that knew who Tony Stark was Iron Man were originally in the comics were Nick Fury, Rhodey, Cap, two other Avengers.
Yeah.
Thor specifically, they didn't have. It wasn't public knowledge. To the public, people assumed like it was probably a different person in the suit every now and
then. Which would honestly make sense because they probably assumed there was a team of bodyguards and they would swap.
In fact, actually, in the issue I just showed off with the Mandarin and Iron Man there, where he's going, holy, that like he's crap, the Mandarin's right there. First off, that was Rhodey in the armor in that panel. Second. In that issue, he literally Rhodey's wearing the armor, and Tony is in their hotel room because they're actually in China for like a business thing. He needs a operation, and they're the only scientist that can do this operation is in China because they're the expert in neurology and all that. So they go there, and then this whole thing breaks out where China tries to employ Iron Man's help. So Rhodey goes to help out while Tony's getting the procedure, and while Tony's done, he realized, damn, Rhodey took the suit, and so he puts on his telepresence helmet and calls another armor out, and then it's like, wait, I thought Iron Man's already out helping us. Like, oh, this is my other Iron Man. He needs maintenance on the suit, so he just flew over here, and I'm just gonna fix him up real quick. So it's like, yes, like to the public, there's like a team of pilots that fly various Iron Men that are doing this out.
And I mean, given to that Tony still has a lot of or I'm sorry, Stark Industries still has a lot of ties to the government and the military. It would make sense that you probably have some military special forces team piloting these things, some
right, or like ex-military stuff. Like Rhodey is ex-military, so
he's ex-military, not current.
In the comics, he's ex-military. Because in the comics he works for he works with Tony.
Gotcha.
But they still do work for them. Because again, the munitions manufacturer.
Yep.
So it's like Iron Man's secret identity was the thing. So that's the reason why Jameson doesn't always like ride on him, because again, it's like he's bodyguard who Avengers stuff. Like he doesn't like like a Hawkeye. He'll rip into Hawkeye because in the comics Hawkeye wears a mask. He has a funky purple outfit because I think he was in the circus, so that's why.
Of course.
He'll rip into any hero with a mask aside from Captain. He hates Spider-Man the most because Spider-Man is the most present in New York City. And the Avengers operate out of New York City. But how often are they actually in New York City stopping you? I mean, a lot of Avenger issues. Yeah, they're flying around like Pennsylvania and Jersey and Iowa or what, like they're all across the country, if not the world, and sometimes even space. But Spider-Man, he's just in New York all the damn time. With a few occasions of going to California once, where he Goblin, or he fights the Hulk in Canada.
No Canada.
Those Canada.
Always.
But yeah, Victor Wolfman says regarding the What If TV show, saying each episode is its own kind of story, which can, if there's no consistency, only fun one-offs. Again, that's the whole point of What If, is that there's not supposed to be. What I meant was, when I asked about consistency, I meant like storytelling and quality writing and stuff, not the consistency of stories themselves, because of course they're not going to align. They're not supposed to align with each other. They're all what if XYZ happened or didn't happen. He also, Victor Wolfgang says they're bringing back Garfield and Toby and all of their villains because of multiverse crap, de-aging and all. Oh god, they're gonna de-age. That's Spider-Man is Spider-Man's already a very expensive special effects character to do. With all the acrobatic web swinging, webbing effects and stuff, like that's already super expensive. Now you're gonna de-age on top of that?
Also, too, like, isn't he already normally either I know originally he was a high schooler.
He was in high school for 2 years in and out of comic book time.
Yeah, and then they were like, we'll make him a college kid. And then there's been stuff which has explored like past college age.
So that's what I liked about the Raimi films, is they literally just cut in the first film, they time jump to where he's in college. Like, he got his powers in high school, and then they have the high school. They literally have the high school graduation ceremony in the movie for like a second, because why do you need to waste time on that? And and then he's in college for the rest of the film, and the second film as well, he's in college. It's because Spider-Man spent most of the comic books in college or grad school. He met, pretty much, with the exception of Flash Thompson and Liz Allen, he met everyone in college. MJ, Gwen Stacy, Harry Osborn. He didn't meet all of them until he was in college. And not all at the same time either. Well, he met Gwen and Harry at the same time on his first day of college, but Mary Jane he didn't meet. So yeah, like Spider-Man always was mostly in college, and eventually started working more for the. He started to build his photography career a bit in the '80s after college. Worked on called magazine. He was working with Joy Mercado, who's who's a reporter, and he was a photographer. They would like travel. They were like traveling the world. Fun, world-stopping stories. And I'm blanking on the name of the magazine, but it was JJJ's personal magazine project, part of the Daily. Nifty little job. But then he started going back into science. Jane. That was all after the symbiote. Wait, how are they doing 3 Spider-Men and all their villains when all of the villains in the Raimi films were killed off at the end?
Bonus questions?
Doc Ock drowned. Did not want to die a monster. Didn't. He died a hero. Green Goblin just impaled himself. The other Green Goblin also, well, he didn't impale himself. He got impaled. And that's even if we're including Spider-Man 3, because that had 3 villains. Sandman's the only one that actually survived the film. And the Amazing Spider-Man films didn't actually. Well, they killed off Electro. Honestly, I would have killed Electro, not even just killed him off. That movie made me hate Electro for up until last year. Like, I finally got over it, but like they made me hate Electro. Granted, Electro in the comic books is not exactly the best villain. He's a B villain. Like, Spider-Man even calls him a B villain at one. He can just fought him enough times to just. But it's like Amazing Spider-Man movies, and the MCU ones aren't any better. Like, when I heard that they were bringing Tobey Maguire back and Andrew back, it's like, okay, so they want to market off the Spider-Verse hype, right? And capitalize on that. That's great, but if it's going to be the same writers, it's going to be shit.
Yep.
It's not like they're bringing back Sam Raimi. He's now going to be writing all the lines and stuff for Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. And even for fans, because there are fans of the Amazing Spider-Man movie, the Mark Webb, who directed those movies. It's not like they're bringing back Mark Webb to do those the lines for Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. Now, for those fans, no, it's just going to be all done by the same team that's been doing the past 2 MCU Spider-Man films. So it's all going to be crap.
Nope.
Let's see. I'm really behind on the chat. I apologize for that. Victor says, "Watch it," in all caps, telling us to watch. You know what? If we're really bored and maybe a little tipsy, we can watch it live on the chat. We can't show anything, obviously, for copyright reasons, but we can watch it and react to it live and have what part of the show, what part of the episode we're up to and stuff like that. Of course, that's if we have nothing better to do. Because I'm not gonna lie, I have no interest in watching the.
No.
I'm not kidding. Elseworlds with DC as well. You know what? Elseworlds, I always liked Elseworlds a bit more than. Oh no, that's not true, because a lot of the Elseworlds are also very depressing. But Elseworlds, there are some good ones. My personal favorite is Son of Superman. Son of Superman was really pretty much Superman. It takes place in 2015. This was written in so it takes place in 2015, where Superman mysteriously disappeared in the year 2000 on a humanitarian mission. Now, that's to 2015. 15-year-old son, is now finally first discovering his powers thanks to solar flare, because he had no powers until the solar flare hit Earth and all his powers are awakened. And he meets up with the world he's in. It's a very order over law and order above freedom type thing.
So it's just exactly what we're moving to now.
Kinda. Not great. It's a world run by Lex Luthor. It's a really good story. I'm not going to say more because I really do think you guys should read it. Son of Superman. Cover art is very, very simple but really good. The silhouette of this version of Superboy, Superman's son, stylized S emblem, flying through clouds, red cape and all. So it's a good story. There's a funny line where, because apparently he didn't know, he grew up not knowing Superman's father. So he's like, "You're telling me you had a fling with you had an affair with your super boyfriend on the side? You did it on Dad?" It's like, "No, you idiot! They were the same person." like Lois is telling you, they're the same person. I can't believe my son's so dense.
No, it's like she literally just grabs a picture of Superman, draws a little pair of glasses, and just hands it to him and goes, dumbass.
You know what? If they do a live action movie or a cartoon based on that story, I want them to do that.
Well, like I love there was this little cartoon I saw, and obviously in pretty much any contingents, any world where you see Batman and Superman, Batman already knows who Superman is. He's already figured it out there.
There's one where you see him figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah, but I saw this little fan made comic someone made where it just shows Batman and he sees a picture of Superman. He's just like like just doodling a pair of funny glasses, and he's just like, and he's like, wait a minute. because it's like just at that moment he's like, no, it can't be.
I just like it's like the world's greatest detective. Like, wait a minute.
Well, honestly though, it would be hilarious to see some stuff in it, because it's like, even as the world's greatest detective, it's like there's got to be some stuff where he doesn't really deduce it.
That's what I like about
into place. He's just like, oh.
Do you ever see the Batman cartoon? Like, you and I have watched some clips from this cartoon. The Batman, like, you have the exchange with Martian Manhunter, where it's like, read my mind now. And it's like, you're thinking of a dog you had as a child. Look at that cave. I distinctly saw, it's like a trick I picked up from some Tibetan monks. It's like, it's like so that in that same cartoon you have Superman and Batman meet for the first time, and Superman does the X-ray vision, finds out Bruce Wayne. So Batman then goes, tries to figure, like, you actually see him figure out, like, okay, so he uses his satellite. Okay, so he's tracking Superman's movements, and they're all going to 2 buildings. Right, the most frequented places Superman's going to is 2 buildings: Daily Planet and a single apartment complex. So he just visits the apartment complex and just shows up, and it's like, you kind of see, okay, so he goes to the apartment complex.
Well, no, wasn't it?
Shows up in what's his door.
Tracker? Didn't he put a tracker? I thought in one of them he put a tracker on
in the animated series he did.
Yeah, and because I remember Superman fighting it and then crunching it, and he's just kind of like.
And she's on the phone with Lois, like, is that so? And it's like, because he's holding the bat tracer, yeah.
And of course, it's shaped like a bat, so it's very obvious.
And the fact that Batman is, like, because Batman could easily hide from Superman if he wanted to. He's done so in the past. Yeah, but he's clearly like on top of a building with binoculars into Clark's window, and then salutes as Clark looks at him and jumps away. It's like, yeah, hi, now we both know who each other are. Like, and he smiles too, which is great.
Yeah, it's just one of those things of, ha, now we're on equal footing.
Exactly. Titans collide, And look, they are the world's finest stuff. But yeah, look, there are some really good Elseworlds. Like, there's a Justice League Elseworlds where they're, like, it's the Justice League, but if they were in the Old West. So, and it's not like it's just the Justice League in the Old West. It's like an Old West story. Except one of the guys, because this is in the 90s, so the Flash was Wally West. So, like, Wally West, Wally the Kid, I think was what they were calling him. Or Kid Flash, no, they literally called him Kid Flash. Because he was the fastest gun in the West. It's like some fun stuff like that. Wonder Woman was pretty much a sheriff of a town that was completely, like, devastated. So she's now, like, on a revenge thing. That's how she recruits all these people. You have Martian Manhunter, who's still a Martian, who comes to Earth.
No.
So it's fun. There's no that I remember. It's been a while since I've read this. But you have a Green Lantern. Like, it's a good story. Like, you can do some really good things with the Elseworlds stuff. There's also most of the Elseworlds are typically, like, alternate futures. They're not so much like, like, what if, they were in the Old West or this. It's mostly like, here's an alternate future where the Justice League failed to do XYZ, or they lose their powers, or whatever.
I remember there was one where they were up against, I think it was Victor Savage, and then, like, Savage and,
Vandal
like,
Savage,
Superman, Vandal Savage, and, like, him and, like, Superman, or, like, just him. Like, he was, like, the only person left, and he pretty much was like, I don't want that. He was like, I won, but at what cost, kind of thing.
Yeah, right. He destroyed the entire planet and lived long enough to see the Earth orbiting a red sun.
Yeah,
which, by the way, our sun will eventually become a red giant, It is. I don't think the Earth would actually survive that though, because when I say a red giant, it's not like it becomes a few inches larger. We're talking like
It becomes a whole
the
lot.
first 3 planets of our solar system may not exist anymore because of how big this thing's going to be.
I mean,
So,
we're already talking universe with superpowers and shit, so...
I know, I'm
Whatever.
like, and something could have thrown it off, or maybe the Justice League saved the planet and died in doing so, but now it's in a stable orbit around the red giant. But like,
Yeah,
my point
whatever.
is like
But
that.
either way,
This
I
is
like
something that's
seeing
not
that stuff
happening for
where-
another billion years or so. So, like,
Well, just it's
billions upon
interesting to
billions of
see when
years.
you have villains to where it's like, okay, explain this idea of okay, you
they won, but then they regret it because like look at
But-
the cost they won.
Yeah,
at.
yeah, it's like I wanted to win, but not like this, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
So,
which
it's
I
interesting.
do like that type of stuff. Like again with Vandal Savage, because Vandal Savage did have like he was a character who similar to Ra's al Ghul, where it's like they had noble goals at the beginning when they first started out, but then over time because they have immortality, both of them are pretty immortal. One literally, the other one uses the Lazarus Pit. They kind of literally like see themselves become the villain. They.
Well, what
yeah.
does it matter if I kill a few
Right,
thousand
because they
people
lose
here?
perspective.
I'm working for millions.
Right, because they don't see, because they're immortal, they lose perspective on that aspect of reality of time and people, because to them everyone dies, so it's why does it matter, right?
Well,
It's just an
because
interesting
three.
thing to do. But and Victor also says, so Victor Wolfgang in the chat says, so he should land back. Oh, we already read that. Still behind on chat. But seriously, watch the No Way Home trailer. You either are going to love it or hate it. Knowing myself and how I'm going to quote myself here regarding the Homecoming movie, and that being, if you're a comic book fan, you're going to hate it. If you aren't a comic book fan, you love it. Feels like you're being punished for being a fan of comics. Literally quoting myself years ago. I'm probably not going to watch the trailer just because why do I need to torture myself? I'm not that much of a masochist. Victor Wolfgang also says, there's going to be a War Machine show in the future. Oh, they're finally doing something with War Machine, the character that's been sidelined for pretty much, what years now? Let's see, they introduced him in 2008 with Iron Man. They actually have him show up as War Machine in 2010, and then they've sidelined him ever since. 11 years. They've sidelined this character for 11 years. They're gonna have a War Machine show in the future. It's called Armor Wars, says Victor. Armor Wars. So the story so earlier in the stream we were talking about Iron Man versus Mandarin in the comics, where he like blasts using Mandarin's rings to kind of power himself, and then nuclear explosion and all that. That was right after a story in the comics called Armor Wars, where he's essentially he takes on everyone using his tech. It's like all these villains like Titanium Man and all these guys that are using his tech, like his Iron Man tech, for villainy, like, and for greedy purposes. He takes them on. Like, he built a new suit specifically designed to take these people on. And it's a little extreme, but it gets the job done. It's like, because again, essentially his inventions are being used for evil. So he's not okay with that. And he goes out to right that wrong.
And left that right.
Victor Wolfgang says, Hawkeye has a terrible fashion sense, so he deserves it. You know what? I prefer the comic book costume over the MCU.
So mean, so hostile.
Well, it's just they're so bland and boring in the movies. Or at least the comics, the costume popped and looked. And it looked silly,
true,
but it was
but
cool.
at the same point, like in the movies, I kind of liked Hawkeye's costume because it made more sense. For because that's like having a helmet or a mask that has these huge pointy things coming off of it. Like you're just asking to get that stuck somewhere if you're in the middle of a fight.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I was fine with it in the first Avengers film, but after that, they tried to blend in the comic books mixed with the live action. It's like you're just making it look weird. It's not like they tried to go for like that like skirt type, the battle skirt type look. It doesn't. Yeah, so I mean, look, it was again. It's not the best costume design, but I mean, it could definitely be a lot worse. A lot of costume designs made today in the comics are worse.
Well, I mean, to be fair, when we're seeing most costume designs for most heroes, we're either seeing some kind of hugely technical kind of thing, so like Iron Man, Doc Ock, that kind of stuff, or complete transformation. So we're
Like
talking
Hulk
like
or
Killer
the
Croc,
Thing.
Hulk, yeah, or we're generally talking about some kind of fucking spandex. Like,
Or
realistically
no,
speaking,
not always, because I have one that
not always, but
no, because I'm gonna
I'd
show one on
say
screen
I'd
right
say
now.
80 to 90%.
Yeah, I mean, look at Namor, Namor the Submariner, just literally wearing a speedo.
Yeah, so it's like,
To be fair,
honestly,
though, he
I
spends most of his time in the water.
I mean that is fair,
He's
but
literally the king of Atlantis, or he's Prince Namor, so he's the Prince of Atlantis. By the way, he existed. He's part of the original Invaders from 1940s. He fought alongside Captain America in
Invader,
World
but
War
I barely
II.
know her.
So, you know, he came out well before Aquaman. Also, he's definitely. I'm not going to say Aquaman's bad because I do think Aquaman does get done dirty a lot. He's treated as a joke. Um,
Oh, absolutely.
but like what I like about Namor, like Namor, I always preferred Namor in terms of like water themed characters, Aquaman versus Namor. I always preferred Namor because again, I grew up reading Marvel comics and Fantastic Four and Spider Man, and Namor always like it was so cool. He started out as a hero, then became a villain, then became a hero again. Like the dude's conflicted as fuck. The new Spider-Man look is really cool. What's the new Spider-Man look? Can you put a um the new movie suit, or is there a new comic book suit that I'm just not caring to look? Could be both. Because we did do a stream. Actually, we never really did. I gave my thoughts, but I don't think we Spider-Man suit, the new one, the new movie suit. Have you seen it?
Nope.
It's not good.
Yeah, just
Which again, like yes, big surprise,
yeah,
right?
yeah, really.
So I'm going is somewhere in our are we there it is. Um Victor, are you talking about this suit, the one on screen here? Is this the suit you're referring to? Oh no, comic book. Spider-Man Oh my god. Is this it? Oh. Please tell me this is not it. Is this what you're referring to, Victor? This is not. Cam, are you seeing this?
Nope. I only got one screen.
So do I, but I'm alt-tab.
Lies
There.
and deceit. I mean, it's definitely freaking bright, I guess. You talking the movie one, like the recent movie?
No,
or like
this
what,
is this is a comic books, the new comic book suit. That's what he's saying. That this Victor in the chat saying this.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I like the shade of blue, but like
It's just way, at least as is right there, way too bright. Like,
it's not that
almost makes
my
eyes
problem
hurt.
with it is the like glowing orange red on white. Why do people have to make glowing bits on white?
Because fuck you.
Like if this was a like all like here's what's the big time costume that he wears where it's like green with it looks like a Tron suit. Like it looks cool. No, it actually does look cool.
Is Google even real?
Illusion. We all live in a.
We all live, we all float down here,
We all live in the Matrix.
but only on Tuesdays.
Like the big time suit looks cool. It's pretty much the same exact design that we just looked at, but done better and done before.
Definitely Tron-like. Now, that does remind me, though, what was it? In the previous Spider-Man movie, where he had to, like, make up a Spider-Man suit while he was in, like, another country or something?
Oh, I didn't see. The last Spider-Man movie I saw was Homecoming.
Yeah, I think they did something that was similar to this. I know it was, like, all black, and I thought it had, like, some green highlights to
okay,
it,
I do know the suit you're talking about. They're Far From Home.
Yeah, yeah. I thought it was something like that.
No, it's actually more based on the Alex Ross suit. This back of it. It actually looks better in the video game because again, suit's completely CGI.
No, I'm not talking the red one. There was one again, Far From Home. So that is essentially the Far From Home one. But in there at one point, I thought it was like he doesn't have access to this suit.
This one here, right?
The one you have on screen right now, yeah, that one.
Yeah,
the one in front there.
I've heard people refer to this as like the noir suit because it looks more like Spider-Man noir. Here, this is better.
I would call it like the stealth suit or whatever.
Well, that big time one is a stealth suit because it does have cloaking capabilities.
Yeah.
It glows when it's not cloaked, but cloaked it glows when it's not cloaked, but when it's cloaked, it's visible.
Yeah, because honestly, that's gonna be a lot harder to see at night. So...
Yeah, but then again, like Spider-Man ain't.
Like part of his whole thing is that he's not hiding. He's not intending. He's not.
Yeah, he's not. He is a bit of a ninja, but he's not Batman. He's not using the shadows.
No, well, I mean,
because he doesn't need to. You know,
when he wants, but his whole thing is being open, dramatic.
Yeah. Also, by the way, fingerless. So stupid.
Yeah, honestly, you're gonna.
If you're trying to have, if you have a secret identity, let's leave fingerprints everywhere I crawl.
Yeah, really. How could someone's fingerprints have gotten on the ceiling here? Genius.
But yeah, like noir suit is pretty much like what it's based on. Noir suit's really,
yeah.
It's really cool though because this is Spider-Man Noir, where it's an alternate version where Spider-Man is in 1933 fighting off gangsters and Nazis, and his costume is based on Uncle Ben's World War I pilot uniform.
Honestly, I like that idea behind it.
Yeah, it's a really good story. The first one, at least. Like they made a second volume, which That's good.
What was terrible? Yeah.
And he was in the Shattered Dimensions video game. Here's his model. It's a fun game. He actually in the comic book he has a gun, and he wears a trench coat.
A gun?
Yeah, he even kills the Vulture because in that continuity, the Vulture's a cannibal and ate Uncle Ben in front of him.
Damn.
So he killed him. He ain't having any of that shit. Also, the Vulture was about to eat Aunt May as well. I'm not letting you do this a second time. Blam.
That's fair.
And the gun he uses is Uncle Ben's service revolver. Definitely a good stuff. Spider-Man Noir, all you want. Victor says it's kind of creepy. What's kind of creepy?
Cannibalism.
No, I assume he's talking about one of the costumes. Personally, I think it doesn't work for Pete. What, the stealth suit that he was talking about? This one? I think it's just stupid that he's wearing fingerless gloves and has no spider emblem. Like, I get, like, the story, I know others, and the story is another country, and they can't have look like Spider-Man's here as well, so they just have a Spider-Man guy. It's for me, a Spider-Man. Like, you know what? Spider-Man always had a answer to that. It's called Quick Change Spidey. It's pretty much Spider-Man mask and gloves, but in normal street clothes. Says, in my opinion, Spidey shouldn't be blue, but instead black, like in the old comics. In the old comics, it was blue too. Says, yeah, that's dumb. It was also the original comics had it in blue. They used black as a shading because they're trying to make it look like reflective spandex. That being said, I do like the idea of having, like, instead of blue, all the blue elements of the costume are black. You know, like that is a design that I have a toy of. An animated series toy. It was like Target exclusive. Movie suit. Movie suits. Taking like this cool costume. Just because Spider-Man's costume's simplicity is what makes it cool. And then they it just looks like techno barf all over the suit. Also looks like a knockoff Miles Morales red. And the other suit that gold on red with this like grade navy blue. Horrible. bad. And the toy probably looks better than the live action version. Well, just because it's physical, it's not like the movie suits nowadays are all fucking like it's complete. Like he is wearing a suit on the set some of the time, but like it doesn't. He might as well not be because they just completely CG the suit on him anyways in post. At least they did in Homecoming and in Civil War. Let's bring up Spider-Man 301. An issue I have way too many copies of. As by my man Todd McFarlane, like classic Spidey suit. Works. Don't if it ain't broke, don't. Let's also bring out, If This Be My Destiny. And yes, I'm literally just typing in the issue. I'm that much of a comic book nerd. Deal with it. Change it because that's the problem, dude. Like it's all Tony Stark this. Spider-Man was a loner. Spider-Man when he up with people, like it was most like yeah, he teams up a lot, but for the most part, let's see, he teamed up with Johnny Storm's like his best friend, his superhero best friend. He and Daredevil have a close relationship. He has a close relationship with Captain America as well. Well, not close, but they respect. Like Captain actually respects him. And all that. He thinks Captain America actually thinks he should probably work with with him in in government and everything like that. But he does respect Spider-Man how he does things. Then you have pretty much all the Fantastic Four, really. Like he's teamed up with everyone, but for the most part, he is a loner. Ups are different than what he actually does all the damn time. And then you have remember that he has been recruited by the Avengers twice, to which he declined twice. And this was in the 60s. It wasn't until like the 80s or 90s when he actually became a member, and he was a reserve member. And of course, you have the sensational Spider-Man costume, aka the Ben Reilly Spider-Man suit. It's an alternate take on the classic red and blues, and it's great. It's a evenly distributed color palette. Hell, even whether I like Miles Morales' character or not, the costume is still a good costume.
Yep.
Obviously, go to get this black suit also, which is my personal favorite alternate Spider-Man suit, black costume. Really can't go.
Or can you?
I mean, they have with the live action movies.
Exactly.
Victor Wolfung says the Spider-Verse movie helped his character a lot. Oh, Miles Morales? Agreed. Totally did. Because before that, he was just tokenized Peter. Whereas that movie actually gave him a character, and he wasn't like the best. It was actually well written.
What?
They showed
No.
like unlike Peter, he was you know, he was kind of just a regular kid. All of a sudden, just bam, you have powers now. And Spider-Man just Spider-Man died right before he can do anything, like because he said he was going to help him, and then killed.
Surprise.
And then he's like, "Oh crap, what do I do?" He has no doing. He's fumbling with the powers and all. And it was a good story, I thought. The movie Spider-Verse comic book version is a shit show. Because more does not equal better. Just as bigger does not equal better. Hollywood and just the big entertainment industry as a whole needs to. More does not equal better. Bigger does not equal. Sometimes less is more.
Impossible.
I like how I said that as I black suit. It actually proves my point further. Like look how much fucking like oversaturated with detail. I hate the waist. Like the triangular belt section is it's gone. It's not there, and it pisses me off because I've been drawing the Spider-Man costume ever since I was fucking 3. You know, like I know this costume. I can literally draw this costume with my eyes closed. I know because I have tried on a bet.
Wait, who let you draw?
What?
Who let you draw?
Blame my parents.
Fair enough.
But I really have no one but my. You know, it's like look at this. Like look at all this fucking. And I'm just not a fan of the web. Like, fine, you want to go with this web pattern where it's like two lines making up a single web strand on the patterning of. Fine, whatever, but it's like it makes it look weird and it doesn't come off on the camera. Like the reason the Raimi films have the protruding webbing, like the webbing's raised from the costume, the reason that is not because it's a stylistic choice. It's because this way the camera actually picks up the webbing on the costume when it's in movement. Like when he's moving around the costume, if he's wearing just like a costume with the webbing just flat on the costume, the camera doesn't always pick it up, and it just looks like a red and blue blob versus the detailed costume with the webbing pattern. So they have the webbing raised on the costume, which honestly looks pretty cool. It makes sense for the movie design, and it makes sense for the camera.
It looks nice. It adds texture to it, so again, it doesn't just look like it's spandex.
Because this image right here, where the paint or the sculpted web pattern on the toy is literally not even painted. This is what it looks like in the film, because it's not the way they have it work. Like that's just it's a texture on the suit. It's a texture on the suit, and it's not a watch face. And it's not something that's raised. It's not like there's no extra value to it. So, like, yeah, you're gonna see it when the suit's just like being held, like a mask is being held in his hand, or when it's just like when he just posed or something. Even in the film, like when the film's rolling, like if the costume's just on a bed somewhere, or someone's like fiddling around with it in their hands, you're gonna see it. But when he's actually wearing the costume and moving around, it's gonna be hard. It's hard to see and come across on camera, which is why they raised it for both the Andrew Garfield and Raimi film. And even the first Andrew Garfield movie, they had that problem because the webbing wasn't. Like, there's maybe 3 scenes in the film where you actually see the webbing, but then again, it had there was no webbing pattern. The costume was a. Says that's what he. That what? What did I say?
Everything.
I don't know. Someone's gonna clip it. No, we don't have an audience. Looks like a robot. I've seen robots that look cooler. What's a good suit design that no one ever talks about?
Pineapples?
The Spider-Man Unlimited costume. This looks better than anything. Like, and Spider-Man wise. I actually do like some of the Captain America and Iron Man costumes are actually really good. Black Widow, it's really hard to screw up. Um, Hulk thing, like if you can screw up the Hulk, then you have a problem aside from that. But again, the reason this costume works is even distribution of color. I keep saying that because it's important. You have to evenly distribute the color. Victor, you understand this because you and I are both huge Transformers fans. You know, how important is color distribution when you're drawing a Decepticon or Autobot? Pretty damn important. Now imagine if you made Optimus Prime like all red with just blue hands or something, and a blue head. It would look silly. It would look ridiculous. Like even with some of the more like modern designs of Optimus Prime, like not live action, but like more modern cartoon and comic book designs, they still retain, like they still look good because they're retaining the color pattern that Optimus Prime is known for: gray thighs, red upper body, the white lower chest section, torso sections, the blue chest or blue or black chest windows, blue head, hands or gray hands, blue shins and feet. So it's like there's a pattern, there's a color palette that you balance. Otherwise, it doesn't look good at all. Otherwise, you get shit like this. And then they have the fact where they try to detail it so much that you end up with what I call the 343 problem, which which all of us are aware of that problem, where like in 343, Halo 4 and 5's armor designs are just so obnoxiously detailed that it's detrimental to the overall design because there's over detailing, and it takes away from the design underneath all those stupid details. All the little bits and shit. You hurt yourself when you over blue bulge. The thighs and cape killed me? Cape. Oh. On the unlimited. Blue bulge. Vic says like it's funny. I actually the version of Prime I've drawn has black fingers with blue hands. Like the palms are blue, but he has black fingers. Because this way it's not just solid. Like you do have a mix of colors there, and it's not just solid blue. Also, I liked when Transformers Cybertron did. Flip the thighs, remove the cape. Well, okay, so the reason the cape exists is because it's based on Spider-Man 2099. 9 had a web cape as well, and so pretty much, and it's pretty much a Spider-Man 2099 show without being called. And instead of having the S-Man of 2099, it has Peter Parker, Spider-Man, in a 2099 setting. That beautiful cover art, baby. Yes. So, S-Man of 2099 has a web cape. That's why they gave him the web cape.
Lies.
Even this costume's good. The red goes along the arms, and so it's like he has like Batman style blades on his forearm. I mean, this costume inspired the Batman Beyond costume, Spider-Man 2099. I mean, pretty much Spider-Man 2099 as a whole inspired Batman Beyond. It's Marvel's version of Spider-Man 2099. And even the Batman Beyond costume's like a good costume. Again, it's a good mix of yeah, it worked for Batman. All black with just what you want to be as the target, because we all know Batman's bat emblem is extra armor, because it's supposed to be a blaring target for people to shoot at instead of his face. We should probably move on to, because we do have one more topic.
Lies.
Apparently, so speaking of DC, we are getting a Catwoman animated movie. Apparently, Catwoman Hunted. We got the cast list and a voice cast list. It's an animated film, and we've got a image, which right here. The Catwoman animated movie. Yay! Batman's in it, and there's a good story. I'll watch it, but if there's no Batman, I feel the need to watch. Let's see. Cast includes. Okay. Trying to get a priceless jewel. So we got Interpol, Batwoman, voiced by Stephanie, Jonathan Banks as Black Mask, Steve Bloom as Solomon Grundy. Seems like the best Wolverine actor. Lauren Cohen as Julia Pennyworth. Julio Penny? Alfred has a other something. I guess. Keith David. The Arbiter. Also Spawn. Keith David as Tobias Whale. Zara Fazal as Talia al Ghul and Nosferatu, sorry. Jonathan Frakes is in this? Okay. As King Faraday and Boss Moxie. Herbie Howell Baptist is Barbara Nerva, aka Kelly Hu as Cheshire, as Mr. Yakuza and Domino 6. Eric Lopez as Domino 1. Okay, so I'm not seeing any Batman, but you know what? I might see this just because. Wow, that's some big names. Makes me worried that this film's going to be.
Big names don't necessarily mean.
I was going to say, it makes me worried that this film's going to be absolute garbage because there's so many big names attached to it.
What could possibly go
how many times do you have a movie that has so many big names like that, or popular sci-fi names that end up being too often?
Oh yes, oh yes. I blame Canada.
At least have him go down on her, Victor. What the hell are you implying? What, have Batman go down on Catwoman? Does have a lot of gadgets. A joke. Bad joke. Actually, include that because I cannot put any more character limit. I've did the character limit for this
How could you?
really easy episode. Victor says, "Remember that Harley Quinn controversy? What Harley Quinn?
Nope.
I mean, I remember people complaining about Harley Quinn and what's her face, Poison Ivy being a couple, but I mean that's been implied since Harley Quinn existed.
Implied. It's been pretty much fucking canon since
Ever since Harley Quinn existed in the animated series.
Yeah,
they always had a thing. I mean, if Batman didn't, or I should say, Bruce Wayne didn't break free of Poison Ivy's, mind control, odds are they probably would have shared him. Like the call spade here. They probably would have slept with him together. I mean, come on, Bruce freaking Wayne, billionaire playboy.
Hey, you know what? Say what you will about Gotham, but it's amazing how many doctors there are running around committing crimes or otherwise.
Equal opportunity.
The education system in Gotham has to be second to none.
What about I mean, I want to say, what about Metropolis or Smallville? I guess because Lex Luthor came from Smallville. Continuity.
Yeah.
Some, not all, some continuities. Yeah, no, you're. Come on, you got Poison Ivy, right? She was a doctor, Dr. Pamela Isley.
I'm sure Joker probably would at some point,
Freeze?
because why the fuck not?
Well, actually, was Freeze does he have a doctorate, or is he just
Of
like
course.
a scientist?
No, he's got a doctor. I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure. He's Dr. Freeze.
No, he's Mr. Freeze.
I could have sworn that there was.
Professor Strange. He's the first villain to figure out Bruce Wayne is Batman. And he's also.
Hugo Strange.
Hugo Strange.
I'm sorry.
By the way,
yeah,
Arkham City, best version of Hugo Strange.
Mr. Freeze does have a doctorate.
Okay.
Because of course not.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense that you have a doctor. He's not called Doctor Strange. He's called Doctor Freeze. Doctor Strange. I know. Doctor Freeze. He's called Mr. Freeze. What's Your Face also has the only villains that don't have doctorate really are the Joker, Mad Hatter, What's Your Face, Edward Nygma, the Riddler, Penguin, Scarface, because fucking puppet. Well, I mean, I always love Scarface, especially in the comics where it's like, it's the puppet. The puppet runs an organization on crime. And it's like a really like a fucked up one too, like drug mules and stuff like that, like some pretty graphic stuff. But it's all done by a wooden puppet.
And I love too that the guy that the puppet, call it what it was,
is a pacifist. It's great.
Is always just so fucking terrified of it all. Like, this is some like middle manager, the kind of guy that'd be like an accountant shoved somewhere and just like not want to interact.
He's like an
people,
Office Space character. It's great.
Yeah. It's like this is the kind of guy that's horrified at any and all violence, and yet the puppet has him using machine guns and stuff on people.
Or the best is the corkscrew. Rhino, give me the corkscrew. Corkscrew. He literally kills people with a corkscrew, like an actual corkscrew. It's also the fact that he can't pronounce B's. The Scarface, the puppet. So every time he says Batman, it's Gatman. Gatman. Victor Wolfgang says a scene was removed from season 3 where the Dark Knight went down on Catwoman. Wait, season 3 of what? The Harley Quinn TV show?
No, the show.
Damn, I'll hit.
Don't you know the show?
The show. The show. Victor Wolfgang says it caused a huge conundrum on the internet, all because DC wants to sell toys, like sex toys. I mean, if you're saying
sure,
that,
let's go with that.
Remember the Harley Quinn show? Okay, yeah. So it's the Harley Quinn show. I've heard good things about that show. I've actually watched a few clips too, and it's funny. I mean, the show is it's a comedy. You know, it's very it takes itself seriously and does a decent. But it's mostly making fun of everything, mainly the live action DC stuff. A lot of the popular tropes that DC actually make fun of all of it. Like for instance, Bane in that show, he talks like the movie Bane. The Dark Knight Rises Bane.
Oh, you
can't understand anything I'm saying. But he talks some sort of like that, but he's just such a pathetic guy.
Well, I mean, honestly, I kind of liked how they had Bane in the Christian Bale movies, just because it was, to me, and this is one of those cases
I
where
like that he was clever.
As long as the writing is good around the character, it doesn't matter if you change stuff. Because I mean, obviously, Bane is originally supposed to be like a luchador wrestler kind of character.
Well, he's Southern American. He was literally raised in a prison, and then he's and obviously, look, I'm fine. Like obviously, they weren't going to do the whole Venom thing, right? Where he has the drug that he plugs into the back of his head, literally into his brain. And it's like this super steroid.
And across the rest of his body too.
Yeah, well, like it's but usually, obviously in the Arkham series, you have tubes all over him. But
originally
it was just it was just like in the back of his hand and his or on his wrist and his head. So, it was really just two tubes.
But and this was my opinion, but this was an example of, hey, we're diverting and rewriting the character, but because they did the writing of it, they did the implementation of it, in my opinion, well, it felt like it fit in the universe there. It felt like it was like, yeah, that makes sense here. Because it really wouldn't make sense for you to have this South American luchador running around with drugs injected. Would be, it'd be a completely different character there at that point. But this idea of this cunning mastermind, and then it turns out, it actually wasn't all just Bane. He was working with Talia. Surprise! And it's just complete. Obviously, for those of us who knew, who Talia was and all that kind of stuff, we're like, wait a minute. But for a lot of people, I'm like, holy shit.
Usually, Talia is always working. You meet her through whatever shenanigans that
Rosh is doing.
Ra's al Ghul is up to, but she always ends up helping the Dark Knight and taking him down.
It is always
to the point where she and her father become estranged.
Her dad to help the detective, and yet also too at the same point, I would say that there was always, at least in especially the animated series, which I grew up watching, there was always this duality of Bruce Wayne and Batman and Catwoman, and Batman and Talia.
Yeah. No, because that's how it was up until the 2000s when they kind of decided on one. It was always which one. Because in the 80s,
to see the episode in Batman Beyond where Talia appears.
I love that episode. Yes, where Talia appears.
I won't say what happens for anyone who does want to go and watch through it, but it's
at the end of the episode.
No spoilers. No spoilers.
No, it's just when he's looking at the picture and just says "Rest well, beloved." It's like I always preferred Batman and Talia versus Batman and Catwoman.
That's fair. I would see more of Bruce Wayne being alongside Catwoman as opposed to Batman.
Right, exactly.
More like the Cunning.
Actually, in the comics, earlier, like right after the Son of the Demon story, where Talia and Bruce have a kid.
Yep.
Except, like, she says it was a miscarriage or whatever, except she actually gave it off to a rich
Surprise
family
me.
to be... No, because she was having she was pregnant and Batman was, like, becoming overprotective. Because, they're risking their lives all the time and doing hero work and stuff. And so she says that, they lost a baby. And it turns out she had the baby, but she gave it to a family that adopted it. Wealthy family. Because at the end of the issue, the baby has this like necklace that she was wearing during the issue. So remember, like, okay, kid, but like afterwards, like she came to Gotham at one point. Like, I forewarned my father, like, I want to like work with you, like to the point where they would actually be happy together. Batman and Talia would work together as heroes. Gotham, like Batman.
I really
I hated
wish-
that in that story, Batman says no, but it kind of made sense because just he would never it's Batman, mission. That's all he has, really.
I do kind of wish we could see, like for instance, in like the what if kind of things.
Yeah,
It would be awesome to see stuff where it was like, hey, here's because the what if things are like only 1 or 2 episodes of following a plot line, correct?
what?
The whole what if universe, it doesn't go super deep into this stuff.
No,
right?
it's usually just like one thing. Like it's like a one-off story, and then that's it. They never actually they don't usually do whole story.
I would
Like
love
they
to
don't do
see
a whole title
stuff.
series of comics based.
Yeah, I would love to see something with that at least that kind of theme where it was a hey, what if Batman and Talia became the defenders of Gotham?
I would love to
kind
see
of
that.
thing.
Like if they're gonna do an
Or
Elseworlds
like
story,
what if Batman
do
and
that.
Selena Kyle settled down, or something like that, and
Well,
seeing like
they did do a few of those with Selena Kyle, where like Batman
yeah, they
and,
did,
and
but then
Catwoman.
Batman always gets pulled back into the main continuum again, and
No.
yeah.
Like Elseworlds wise, they've done a few Elseworlds where Batman and Catwoman are like old, married, had kids who are now the new Batman and Robin and stuff. So like they've done stories like that.
Why can't any of it? And it's like, I know, of course, why, because the storylines have to continue to keep selling stories, merchandise, toys, yada
They have
yada.
a status
But it's
quo.
like, why
Yeah.
can't the characters ever just have a happy ending?
Well, that's what I liked about
Or a happy
Marvel.
medium?
That's what I liked about Marvel in the '80s because, like, again, I grew up reading Spider-Man. Like Spider-Man in 1986, and October 1986, got fucking married.
Yeah. And it's
No,
like, for heroes,
to be
it's like,
fair,
heroes
he's
never
not
get
the
married,
first.
right? Because you got to keep those love interests open.
Yeah, he's not the first though, because Reed Richards and Sue Storm did that in 1964. Before that, but again, like Marvel did that first in the 60s, and then again in the 80s. They had the heroes not only dating successfully, but get married. And in the Fantastic Four's case, Reed Richards and Sue Storm, they actually had kids.
Yeah.
They had Franklin Richards, and who's like this all-powerful being because he's the son of 2 cosmically infused beings. It's like, yeah, whatever. But it's like you had characters that actually had happy endings. Like Spider-Man got married, had a loving wife. His aunt. And obviously the original Clone Saga, because during the Clone Saga, Mary Jane was pregnant. In the original, the released version from 1994 to 96, they killed the baby, or leave it to not be. I don't know. Like essentially, they end up with no baby at the end. Horrible.
Yes.
Whereas, but then again, the Clone Saga is horrible. However, the Clone Saga's original script, like the original idea for it, the non 2 to 3 year stretched out version due to bankruptcy at Marvel Comics at the the original version from Tom DeFalco from 2006, they how it ends? They get the baby. Ben Reilly doesn't die. Everyone's
That
happy.
sounds good.
So that means the baby's alive.
I'm a big fan of not
Aunt May
dying.
doesn't even die. So Aunt May, the baby now has 2 parents, 2 loving parents, and a loving aunt, and an uncle, kinda. an uncle who looks identical to her dad, save blonde hair instead of brown.
Don't ask questions.
And in obviously before they did what the real Clone Saga is what it was called. That's what the Clone Saga was supposed to be. Or they did that even earlier on. Tom DeFalco did Spider Girl, which was, a what if originally. Spider-Man and Mary Jane's daughter became Spider Girl, like a hero. Yeah, they've done what ifs, but usually the what ifs are where, like if they're gonna have a hero, especially in DC's case, whenever you have a hero that's happy, usually in a what if, kind of sucks. Whereas Marvel before 1993, I would say, usually Marvel was the one that was always doing the happy end. But nowadays, no one's doing happy things. Everyone's just doing the same cookie cutter bullshit.
Okay, what else?
Um, we talked about the Fallout. Actually, no, you weren't here for the Fallout TV show. We talked about it on Wednesday, but you were not here for
Is
that.
it gonna be shit?
What?
Is it gonna be shit?
It might be.
It's gonna be shit.
I mean, there's nothing to say it won't. So pretty much, we got a statement from the showrunners or the producers, I think. So, by the way, it's being produced by the same guys that did Westworld.
Never seen it.
Neither have I, so I didn't know if you did. Oh, like here's some interesting news. If you, I know what it's about. It's about like Westworld's like an attraction. It's like an old west attraction with essentially synth androids that are used as like at theme park attractions and stuff like that. But anyway, so the quote here, like we got a description for what the show's going to be like. Amazon's making the show, and the creators of Westworld are creating this show as well, like are running this show.
Oh boy!
And one of the creators said, "It is just a
Oh
gonzo." I'm quoting them here. It is just a gonzo, crazy, funny adventure and mindfuck like none you've ever seen before. It's pretty cool.
But I prefer my mind not fucked. Can they at least use protection?
No, but would you think that's a decent description for a Fallout show? It's a little lighthearted for a Fallout show, to be honest, but
honestly,
it's not sending any red flags.
In the world of in the world of Fallout, you could pretty much do any story you want.
Yeah,
any story you want. Because with all the 1950s retro futuristic look of radiation to the point where you essentially have magic, the retro futuristic look of technology, which again gives you almost magic, the fact that it's a post-apocalyptic wasteland, you could literally tell any story you would want to tell in the world. The problem is just, as I've always said, if you write the story well, everything will fall into place. The question is, are they going to be able to write it well? That's literally the only question. I will say I absolutely love Fallout. I think it's a great universe to explore. Looking hell, as we've been going through here, if I've seemed halfway distracted, I'm working on my Fallout 4 load order here to try to get all of the. I have 800 mods in it that I'm trying to get under a certain number of plugins because otherwise the game won't load. So I've been working on that while I've been doing this here too. So I love Fallout, but the question is just going to be if the writers actually go and look into the source material, stay true to the themes of it. We'll see. But in that, as long as you're following those style guides, you can do any damn story you want.
I mean, I hopefully it's good. And you ever seen those Wayside Digital shorts, like the fan films, Fallout fan?
Oh yeah.
Like those to me are like, okay, proof that you can do a live action Fallout series. Amazing, right there.
Oh yeah.
Those things are incredible. Oh, I specifically love Red. with the ranger, literally a lone ranger.
Yeah,
Right, like
literally.
it's such a simple story. Got NCR ranger is hired by just some concerned mother to look for her daughter that's been enslaved.
And the ranger's like, "Fuck it, I got nothing else to do right now." All right.
Exactly. It's like, and like the story kind of like it's just such a simple story, but you can tell so much in just a simple story. But then again, they're probably going to do something more modern day television where overarching plot, and I hope
Now,
not.
is this going to be a serialized TV show? Like, oh,
I have
there's
no
15
idea.
episodes. Or
I couldn't
is
tell
it?
you.
Do we know if it's a movie or just unknown?
It's a series on Amazon. That's all. That's all I know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, it is what it is. Like I said, if now that being said,
Detailed.
if it does go well, I think it'll bring some much needed positive attention to Fallout, just because Fallout
You
4
don't say.
for before Fallout 4 came out, many people who enjoyed Fallout 3 in New Vegas, which admittedly not everyone did, going from the isometric games to the
Right,
three-dimensional
because at the
Bethesda
time those
games.
were brand new and a lot of people were getting
Yeah,
used to
because I
that.
mean,
Yeah.
but I will say, at least, and this is just my opinion, I think Bethesda in Fallout 3 did a good job of transiting the world into three-dimensional, and at least at minimum totally did not completely butcher the lore. Sure, they made some changes to it
Completely.
here and there. There was shit that got edited and changed, removed, etc. But they didn't just totally butcher it aside. Uh, and then with Obsidian in New Vegas, again, you got the original team practically working on that one there. But Fallout 4, to me, was very, very lackluster, and 76 obviously a debacle, whatever. But
Tabernacle.
if they were to make this TV series that it goes well, I think it'll finally bring some positive light to Fallout that it hasn't seen in over a decade. So that would definitely be nice. And if, depending on how much reception it gets, it might open Bethesda up, if they aren't already, to considering another Fallout game and hopefully putting someone halfway fucking decent in charge this time.
I hope that is the case. And yeah, I totally agree. This show needs to do well, and that it, I guess you can say it has a lot riding on it. In that rebuild the Fallout, the Fallout franchises is confident with the fan base, but
What confidence?
exactly, it needs to rebuild that confidence. Like, again, we don't know enough about this show to really say anything. Like again, at best we can react to some of the news, but there's no actual news other than, oh, we finally have a description. What do you think this means? Like, there's nothing.
Because also too, it's like we could, because it would depend too. Who's your main character? What are the other
We
characters
have
that are going to
no
be gathered
idea
around
of
him?
plot details. We don't even know where this is taking place, let alone when. Like, is this taking
Yeah,
place?
I mean, this could
Like,
be.
when is this
It could
taking
be
place
right
in
after
the
the bomb is
timeline?
fell.
Is this taking place like during like around the era of Fallout One, right? Or is it taking place more along the lines of Fallout New Vegas? Or you're like, what?
Or are we not even going to get a timeline? They might just say, "Hey, fuck, it's whenever." Maybe I doubt they would do
Or
that,
are
but
we
they
getting
could.
something like earlier on? Are we getting like a freaking pre-war series? Like what? I hopefully not. The description definitely seems more like it's post-war, typical Fallout nuclear wasteland. Hopefully, that I believe that's to me like that's Fallout. Like pre-war would be interesting, but like what makes Fallout is the Fallout aspect. You know? It taking place in a post-apocalyptic nuclear wasteland, part of its charm. And in terms of funny, like Fallout's humor's always been, uh, it's not like joke cracking. It's more absurdity of situation.
Yeah, it
Um,
it definitely has humor
it
to it, but
has
it's always,
humor. Totally
it
has
has
humor.
humor with an edge.
Yeah,
Now that's not to say it's not edgy humor. It's not
it's not
like,
like emo angry
dark
teen.
humor,
Yeah,
although there is some slight elements of dark humor to it. It's like, for example, there's just one encounter you can get in New Vegas if you have the Wild Wasteland perk, where you're walking along and then next to the road
are you
you
talking
find a
about the
fridge and there's a skeleton with the Indiana Jones hat, which is mocking the one movie where he hid from a nuclear bomb in a fridge. Because ideally, because the fridge was made of lead and airtight, so the idea is, well, okay, you hold your breath while you're in there, and the lead will prevent any radiation from getting you, and the
yeah, but
body of the fridge would
the
take any
fridge.
of the blast. Obviously, that's not really going to work,
No,
because you're
even
he was
even
in
by
a
the film's
town.
logic, the dude should have been like, crippled to hell.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He would have been dead, honestly.
He would
But
be dead.
again,
They would have
it's a
opened the
movie.
fridge to
But
a corpse and then closed it back up because, like, oh, it's sealed, right? You don't smell's gonna be contained in there.
like, yeah.
Yeah, that film has
But
problems. But yeah, no,
we'll
that's
have to see. But there's any
no. You know
number of
what?
things. I mean, they could do something like the Mandalorian with it, where they have, the man with no name kind of thing. You have some character they're always wearing like a helmet or armor or something like that.
Like an NCR Ranger.
Yeah, well, an NCR Ranger, Brotherhood of Steel, could be anyone.
Right. Then that's the thing is you can do something like the Wayside Digital had that what the hell they call it where they had like the ghoul, the vault dweller, and some ex-slave chick, like a trio.
Yeah, you
Like
could have like
something like that.
followers.
Like you have, it doesn't necessarily need to be a vault dweller, but it's like a trio of characters or a duo of characters that they constantly have a back and forth with each other. So you got like drama, or not even drama, but like banter there. Like
Yeah.
and they're constantly finding themselves in ventures or just trying to find work so they can survive in this wasteland, and it constantly leads them to life or death situation, stuff like that. He doesn't need to focus on like the NCR or the Brotherhood. Like, he can just be focusing on effectively what the player character is, and that just a random guy in the wasteland trying to survive, or gal,
Or both.
or both. You can have a duo. You can have a guy and girl. You can have a guy, girl and girl. I don't know. Got options.
And
Doesn't
options you
like
get.
them options. I mean, yeah, hopefully that's what they do, because again, this is all hypothesis by us. Like, we're just kind of theorizing on theory crafting on what a Fallout TV show is about. But I don't think they're actually going to do any of this. Whatever. Hopefully. But all. That's all she wrote for this week, or at least for in terms of on video game news. Talked about what Shang-Chi critic reviews. Oh, they're just exactly as we expected it. At least expected them to say it's going to be great, even though it might, or at the very least
No,
mediocre.
impossible.
And we've got the whole news on the Black Widow lawsuit, how they're moving for arbitration, which not a good thing. Is also just that Disney. Oh, we don't want they don't want the public to know about what they're. And yeah, and then we went off topic with Marvel Comics because shit they are nowadays and how great they used to be with DC. DC and Marvel both used to tell some amazing stories. I mean, Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, all of these characters, they do not achieve the level of popularity and iconicness that they have today just for sitting on their duff doing nothing. That's what we do. But nowadays it's all about deconstructing the super patriarchy. Exactly. Whatever the re. One of these days. Yeah. So that's really it. Unless you have any topics.
Nope. Ooh, I got one thing here on the topic of Fallout. For Skyrim, I believe it would just be Special Edition, and for Fallout 4, for those of us who may like to mod the games past the 256 plugin limit, which, yeah, I know for some of you are like, what, over 200 mods? Well, yeah, I'm sitting at 800 right now on mine. But there's a cool thing you can do where, so with the Creation Club, when they push that out, as bullshit as it is, they did do one really great thing for modding in general, and that it added a new file type that's called an ESL, or essentially what a light plugin. And these plugins do not count toward the 250 56 plugin limit. All of the ESLs get combined into essentially get combined into a single file when the game runs. So they take up one. They all of them together take up one single plugin slot. So you get 255 instead. Now the problem is with that though is that ESLs get loaded as ESM files, which for those who don't know, those are the files that get loaded before anything else. So that's like the base game files and everything else there. Long ramble short, you can take a regular plugin though. So let's say you have a patch between a couple of plugins. You're like, well, I don't want this just taking up room. If it meets certain criteria, you can actually go and just flag the plugin as an ESL, even though the file extension remains an ESP, and it thus will not take up room in your load order. It does not get forced to the top of your load order. It gets to stay there, and you essentially just free up slots. So it's pretty nifty. That's all I got.
It up for certain name here. I need to get like a robotic voice.
Just grab a voice to text thing.
Yeah. Nah, no, there's still too much. I want something
No,
cold and machine.
I'm sorry. Do a text to voice.
No, I know what you mean.
Because those will always be like very robotic.
Well, yeah, that's gonna wrap it up. I hope you guys enjoyed or found this informative, or at least enjoyed.
Or else.
Whether you're watching this live or catching the rerun, say thanks for watching. Support the channel, you guys. All sorts of. What do you guys think of all these topics that we talked about? Black Widow lawsuit, Fallout TV show, Marvel Comics is in general, but mainly like the What If stuff that we haven't watched. And the Shang-Chi movie. Like, what do you guys think of all this stuff? Let us know in the comment section, because why not? You know, enjoy talking intelligently. So, let us know what you guys thought about all this stuff in the comment section. If you want to help support us in a more personal way, we do have awesome t-shirts, spring store, that will make you say what the frick frack snick patty whack give a dog a bone kind of is this, because it literally says so on the t-shirt. Yeah, link in the description for everything. Sources are well till tomorrow for any of you by watching our gaming podcast every Monday. Catch you guys then. What the hell are we gonna talk about tomorrow?
Pineapples.
You heard it here first. Okay, I'm slurring my words. Goodbye.